Okay, welcome everybody that's here tonight. And I'll go ahead and call to order the November 14, 2023 meeting of the Snohomish County Planning Commission. And Taylor, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Bastide.
Here.
Chair Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Sheldon.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Vice Chair Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Namella.
Here.
Commissioner Ash.
Here.
Commissioner Sievers.
Here.
And Commissioner James.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. And for my report tonight, I'll announce that unfortunately, Commissioner Eck has, well, I guess it's really good when you think about it. She's won a seat on the Edmonds City Council, position one. And unfortunately, Edmonds City Council meetings happen on the same night as the Snohomish County Planning Commission. So Chris has had to turn in her resignation, and we'll miss her. She's been a valuable member of the commission. She might show up tonight. I thought she was going to be here, so thanks. I got somebody watching the mic for me. This is good. But Chris is going to leave us, and so there'll be an open spot on District 3. But other than that, we're still a good commission with 10, and we'll carry on. Next item for business tonight, item C, approval of minutes. This is for October 24, 2023. Any comments, observations, suggestions about the minutes of October 24th? Taylor, I just want to thank you for your good job of summarizing that important meeting. It was a good job on that. Seeing no comments, I'll declare the meeting, the minutes of October 24, 2023 to be approved. Now we move into the big item for the night, unfinished business, to say the least. The last 10 months, we've listened and read and met with the public, which has been enjoyable. And tonight we start to put a cap on it. And we'll turn it over to David Killenstad, Manager of Long Range Planning. David, go ahead.
All right, so thank you. Taylor's going to load up a presentation here. We'll be a little bit of a warm up back here for your deliberations. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm trying to share it.
All right, so tonight you begin deliberations on the 2024 update of the county's Growth Management Act Comprehensive Plan. We have reserved tomorrow night and Thursday night for a continuation of your deliberations. They are open to the public to listen in, but testimony is not permitted this evening, both oral and written. Staff is available in person and online to answer commissioner questions. We have a number of staff here who are behind you from Long Range Planning, Parks, and Public Works. Taylor will record the motions on a screen for the commissioners to see. We're going to be putting it up here on the big screen in the front. Just as a reminder, at least 6 votes are required for the commission to make a recommendation, and we have provided answers to a number of commissioner questions in advance of tonight's meeting. Next slide, please. So just kind of an administrative note here for those joining online. We do have multiple screens going on here in the room, the one that's in the front of the room, as well as the front and side monitors. And so we do have a note here that if you're sharing 2 screens, each Zoom attendee can toggle back and forth between the screens by clicking the view options at the top of your screen, scrolling down to shared screens, and then selecting one or the other options. Next slide, please. So just kind of a high-level overview of how your deliberations we're expecting them to unfold. You'll start with a recommendation on a future land use map, then move into the infrastructure elements, followed by the remaining elements. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of guidance on recommending a land use alternative. So you can select one of the 3 SEPA alternatives and then add or subtract docket applications, add or subtract council motions, which would get to your recommendation. Once you've made a recommendation on the future land use map, you will need to make a separate recommendation on a corresponding set of zoning amendments. And we have zoning maps here in the room. We also have maps online as well. Frank Slusser from Long Range Planning will be leading that and assisting you as needed. We'll be able to pull up maps over on the monitor as well as here in the room. And we do have zoning that goes along with each of the alternatives, docket applications, and council motions. So we could certainly assist you if you need some clarification there. Next slide, please. So again, once you get through the map, this is the what we sort of feel is the best sequence to work through the amendment, each of the elements, starting with transportation, moving to parks, cap facilities, and then jumping into the remaining elements of the comprehensive plan. You are certainly free if you decide you want to take something out of order. This is your meeting, and so you can do that. So this is sort of a suggested order that we think makes the most sense to work your way through your deliberations here. Next slide, please. Just a refresher on Robert's Rules of Order, since you're probably going to be making quite a few motions here as part of your deliberations. So again, it starts with a main motion. We look for a second, and then there can be discussion on or amendments to that main motion. That's then followed either by a vote of each amendment to that main motion or a vote on the main motion itself if it's not been amended, or a main motion as amended by roll call. So all votes will be handled by roll call. So just a couple of some phrasing of how amendments, the form that they might take. You can see an example for a main motion, and then an example of how an amendment might be phrased. So again, just some helpful refreshers on Robert's Rules to make things go a little bit more efficient. Next slide, please. So, and finally, when you complete at the end, when you've finished all of your recommendations, staff does have one final motion that we would like the commission to make that would allow us to make sure that things are all nice and tidy, internally consistent, that any changes that you may have made as a result of choosing an alternative that may need to be reflected across elements. So just sort of a little bit of a housekeeping motion that we would ask that you do at the very end of your process. Next slide, please. So just a few final reminders. Breaks are allowed. So if you need to take a break this evening, you can do that. That's up to you to decide when you want to adjourn for the evening. We do have the room for a while, and the parking garage will remain open. We do, as I said, have access to maps in digital form as well as individual elements. So we've got the ability to pull up a lot of information if we need to as you work your way through. And again, the final reminder is that findings will be needed if you choose to recommend something that it differs from what staff had originally proposed, and that findings can be based on the public testimony, both oral and written, which you have received quite a bit of in written form. And we do have access to that, those written comments here this evening as well. And I think that is my final slide. All right. So with that, I will turn the meeting back over to the chair.
So turning to comprehensive plan update deliberations. What I see here is item A is future land use map infill changes. Here we go. Here's the item B. I think we've gone through the first one there. Item B, motion number 22-090, referred to Planning Commission. This is a future land use zoning map, and I believe that staff has maps to look at on the screen.
Yeah, so if let me back up. So just as a reminder, so the suggested for picking an alternative would be to start with one of the three alternatives, and then decide if you want to add or subtract the list of council motions. So what's in your agenda is sort of the comprehensive list of all the things that are on the table for consideration. Our suggestion is that you deliberate and discuss which of the alternatives you want to choose, and then make decisions of whether you want to add or subtract the various parts of those.
So at this point in time, we're discussing the EIS.
Correct. You're discussing the alternatives that were presented in the EIS.
You know, for the life of me, I don't see that on the agenda.
It's part of what's there.
Okay. I'm sorry to talk like that, but I do not see the word EIS anywhere. But if that's what the topic is right now, and we do have three alternatives, Item 1, alternative 1 is no change. Alternative 2 is somewhat limited, and alternative 3, I believe, includes the county council motions. And this is a time for us to discuss that. I'm just gonna jump out here, David. I realize this is very formal, but I just want to tell you what I'll go reflect back on the last time you and Vice Chair Campbell and I talked and about the meeting tonight is these alternatives seem to flush out as we go down through the county council motions. And if we look at those motions before we select an alternative, the alternative will pop out by itself and we're going to know where we stand. If we pick an alternative first, are we not kind of tying our hands and everything will have to fit that alternative?
Not necessarily. And I think I saw Vice Chair Campbell have his hand up earlier.
Well, yes, I think it is a little bit challenging to figure out what's the right way to enter this conversation because there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I thought we were going to look at the land use map, the flume to start with as a way to kind of look at the underlying zoning and the maps there and then go to the EIS. But I think it can go either way. The EIS provides some guidance about all the different motions and dockets. And that doesn't mean that you're straitjacketed by those motions, but they do give guidance around it. So if the consensus, that I don't know that we can have that, but I certainly would move in this regard that we move alternative 2 from the alternatives memo to adopt that as our starting point for those conversations. I have proposed some amendments to the land use map, but I'm not sure in the sequence. I don't think it necessarily matters. I think being able to look at alternative 2, the medium growth alternative with the recommendations that have gone with it provides some guidance.
Okay. And so what you're saying, Tom, is that you, Commissioner Campbell, is that you're making a motion to adopt EIS alternative 2. And the assumption here is we'd go to a second and a vote prior to we start looking prior to our looking at the county council's proposed map changes. Or do you want to look at the map changes first? You've made a motion. Do you want to look at the map changes first?
Second.
You want a second?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table right now by Vice Chair Campbell to adopt alternative 2 of the EIS, seconded by Commissioner Sheldon. And at this point in time, are we taking a vote?
Let me say this, you go to discussion.
Yes.
So part of that discussion then is to understand the different motions that go along with that. I think as he put up the Roberts rules, that if we make amendments on the motions to alternative 2 as we go through them, then we vote on final adoption on alternative 2, inclusive of the amendments, the motions, the dockets that were included.
I think that's a good idea. So the discussion is actually a review of the maps. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, so it's been moved and seconded that we
Yes.
have alternative 2 on the table. So now we'll go through discussion. I think we can adopt the motion for alternative 2 and then move through the other components of it. And then as that final motion integrates all the amendments into a final comprehensive plan. So it gets wrapped at the end.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table by Commissioner Vice Chair Campbell and seconded by Commissioner Sheldon. A motion is made to adopt alternative 2 of the EIS. And at this point in time, we enter discussion on that item. Any discussion among the fellow commissioners? Pass them out.
I think Tom and I are sitting
Commissioner Ash.
here right next to each other. So Mr. Campbell and I think we have some of the same goals in what happens in the county and in the state and other places. I think sometimes we have a little different, slightly different methods on how we might want to get there. I think I would support the staff recommendations for number 3, and I've gone through and it is kind of we have this Growth Management Act, and it gives us directions. I don't know if it's all the greatest of directions or not. I'm not for or against the Growth Management Act, but I do see that over the years that there's been a lot of I mean, sort of not the best repercussions from it. I mean, issues on values of home or home costs and values are, cost of homes is a great big one. And of course, traffic, trying to get any place, any time of the day is tough. I mean, maybe those things will sort out as growth management gets denser.
Merle, get the mic right up by your mouth.
I'm sorry. But, I think alternative 3 is a lot more sensible in trying to address issues like housing that can be obtained by most of the people in the county. I think that's one of the biggest issues with it. So, I mean, that's why I would support it. Going to 3 and would probably not vote for Tom's recommendation. Yeah. Anyway, that's.
Any other discussion on the motion? Any other thoughts? Raise a hand. Do we see Commissioner James?
I'm here, but I don't see myself.
Any comment, Commissioner James? Any discussion on the motion to adopt alternative 2? There you are. We see you.
Do you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I just wanted to, well, we don't have to go into great depth, but the difference between alternative 2 and 3, just could you maybe Commissioner Ash could highlight again, just quick bullet point differences between the two? I heard his reasoning and I think it's sound, but just for the benefit of those listening and myself, the bullet points again between 2 and 3 that would make it different. What's the main differences?
Yeah, well, we'll have Frank Slusser here give an overview of the differences between alternative 2 and 3.
Okay, so do you expect us to vote on alternative 2 and then have the differences talked about after that? Because that doesn't make sense.
No, Frank's gonna give an overview of each of the alternatives before you vote.
Okay,
I could speak to it right now.
thank you.
So both alternative 2 and alternative 3 include the urban core sub-area plan as a major component accommodating most of the urban growth for the unincorporated area within the area around the future light rail stations, around I-5 at 128th and 164th, and at Airport Road and State Route 99. Both of them have nearly identical proposals for infill within the Southwest UGA and those municipal urban growth areas that are part of the high capacity transit communities, regional geography. And the major differences are the UGA expansions and docket proposals. So in alternative 3, it includes all of the docket proposals for UGA expansions and as well as for infill, whereas alternative 2 includes only DR1, SW17, and it includes an alternative, a variant of SW10 as the infill docket proposal. Alternative 3 includes all of the council initiated UGA expansions. So that's motion 22090 for the Southwest UGA, motion 22095 for the Lake Stevens UGA, motion 22-098 for the Malpa UGA, and motion 22-099 for the Monroe. And it does not include motion 22-134, which is a smaller version of the Southwest UGA expansion that is included as part of alternative 2 instead. And both alternatives includes a handful of technical amendments as well. So the differences are mainly the UGA expansions that are included and a slightly different version of the SW10 proposal.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions on that, Commissioner James?
Thank you. You know, that actually helps a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Campbell?
Just to make a clarification, it doesn't mean that we can't vote those proposals in as we go through the different dockets and motions. So it's just that I'm starting from a narrower spot Commissioner Ash would start from a larger spot, assuming they're all in. I start from the smaller, medium growth, and then we would vote on each of those as we go.
That makes sense. It really does.
Yes.
Any other discussion at this time?
I support Commissioner Campbell's approach.
Okay, I think it's a real good idea. Thank you for that. So are we ready for a vote? I said the process is a good idea. Taylor, we have a motion before us. I think the discussion's over. Do you want to call roll call for a vote? This is on alternative 2 for the EIS.
Commissioner Ash,
Nay.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Aye.
Commissioner James,
No,
Chair Larson,
Yes,
Commissioner Mella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Nay.
I count 6 yeas. How about you, Taylor?
6.
Motion passes. Alternative 2 is the preferred alternative pending our review as we move through this docket item. But we still have flexibility. Now, I assume, David, help me out here. We're moving right into motion 22-090.
Yep, so you can, if you're ready, we will get maps here and we can work our way through them in the order that they appear in the agenda. Give us just a moment, just give Frank a moment and we'll have Frank do just kind of a short high-level overview of each of these, just as a refresher.
Okay, so we're starting with council motion 22-090. So there's a lot of maps associated with this. I have aerials, I have future land use, I have zoning. I'm going to start with the future land use. Okay, so this map shows an overview of the entire proposal. So council motion 22-090 is a proposal to expand the east side of the Southwest UGA by 789 acres. It generally follows a Puget Sound power and light and combined with Olympic pipeline utility corridor that it uses as an eastern boundary along most of it. The proposal is mostly for urban low density and urban medium density residential uses with some urban high density by Maltby Road. And publicly owned properties would be designated public institutional use. Council motion 22-090 was studied as part of alternative 3, not as part of alternative 2, although it overlaps with the part that was studied in alternative 2. And there's 3 areas that I have highlight maps for. So we have this is the Sunset Road area. So Sunset Road. I'm going to apologize in advance because the symbology may be slightly different on the different maps. So I apologize for that. Sunset Road area. This is 215 acres with the proposal to go mainly to urban low density residential, except the publicly owned properties, which are owned by school districts, to go to public institutional. That's here and down here. Just to note, there is also a docket proposal SW14 that overlaps with this proposal that we will likely get to later. It's located at this location, but it would have a different proposed designation instead of the urban low density residential. The proposed zoning to correspond to this would be R7200 for the entire area. This is an area that would the capacity increase would be roughly 2,300 population, and it would include employment. The employment is associated with school sites that potentially, if they wanted to, it's possible they could develop outside the UGA, not necessarily, but that would be the employment capacity of 162. Second area is the middle part. It's actually two areas as described in the staff reports. So the Timber Creek open space properties here. The proposal is to redesignate that to public institutional use with the R9600 zoning. And that would have no capacity. And then this section here, this is the 43rd Avenue area. This is the same area that is included in motion 22-134, but with different proposed designations here. The main part would be proposed for urban medium density residential. This lower section here, which includes Ruby Bridges Elementary School, is proposed for public institutional use. And the section here that is right along Maltby Road at the southwest corner of this section is proposed in this motion for urban high density residential. Corresponding zoning would be LDMR, low density multiple residential for the majority of the area, R9600 in this location, and MR in this location. And then the third, or the southern area, is known as the 45th Avenue area. This is roughly 220 acres, and the proposal is for this to go to urban low density residential with some publicly owned properties would go to public institutional use, and the proposed zoning for the entire thing would be R7200. I think I missed the 43rd Avenue section population capacity. It's roughly 2,000. The southern portion population capacity is 1,150.
Thank you, Frank. If I'm understanding this correctly, even though we voted for alternative 2, I believe we need to vote on this proposal. And if we vote yes, then we're tending toward alternative 3. Councilmember Campbell.
I just want some clarification on some of these. One, Frank, there is a staff recommendation on each of these. Is that correct?
We did not prepare a staff recommendation on the council motions.
Not on council motions. Would you take a step back and let us know about the buildable lands and the process by which there were determinations to not expand the urban growth areas, and that reasonable measures to infill were are more important under the Growth Management Act than just necessarily expanding area by area?
I covered that in the briefing that I provided on September 12th. Under our countywide planning policies, we have adopted growth targets for the urban unincorporated areas as well as the cities and towns in the area. And in the high capacity transit communities, we have significant shortfalls when you compare the targets to the buildable lands capacity, which the buildable lands capacity only goes out to 2035. So first step that we take is to reevaluate the redevelopment assumptions that we used in the buildable lands report, also the density assumptions, and especially because buildable lands report, the time frame for that at 2035 is before the light rail stations would open in the unincorporated portion of the Southwest UGA. So we would expect significantly different density assumptions within those higher capacity plan designations and zonings in that future time period. The second step is to look at opportunities for infill review. So the urban core sub-area is a plan that presents opportunities to develop in a way that is consistent with the significant infrastructure investments that light rail represents, and the ability for people to move through the region with the access to the light rail, and significant capacity, so that in alternative 2, a little more than half of the unincorporated growth would be allocated to the urban core sub area because of those that the changes in the plan and the different density assumptions. Also, we reviewed other opportunities for reasonable measures to accommodate variety of housing types throughout the other portions of the unincorporated urban areas that are, or I shouldn't use that term, of the high capacity transit communities that are unincorporated, that are the areas targeted for large amounts of growth, and look at all the opportunities to accommodate growth within those areas consistent with the growth targets that were adopted. And then the third option, and this is also driven by our countywide planning policies, that we have a responsibility to consider reasonable measures before UGA expansions. But the third option is to accommodate growth through UGA expansion. And in alternative 2, we found that the Bothell Muga, even with significant increases in zoning for medium density, there was still a shortfall relative to the adopted Bothell Muga target, and therefore there was a small UGA expansion proposed there. Alternative 3 studied larger UGA expansions.
It's also worth noting for alternative 3 has a higher growth target than alternative 2. So we're planning for a larger amount of population in alternative 3 than we are under alternative 2. So that also is a driver in what Frank just described as far as infill changes versus the need to as a last resort, look at adjustments to UGA boundaries.
Okay. Frank, here's a question for you. You say there's a population deficit under alternative 2 that we'll eventually see. Do you have a sense of when that deficit will begin to become apparent? It's not now, right? It's in the future?
No, under alternative 2, there is not a capacity deficit.
About when will there be a deficit? When would we want to see alternative 3 play out? I'll tell you why I'm asking. A couple of reasons is, first of all, we've accepted alternative 2, which has implications. But how I've thought about this coming into tonight quite a bit is it's not that alternative 3 mapping and expansions are bad. But as a sidebar, when I look on my Google satellite image, all I see is trees in there, and I'm reminded of the public hearing we had, and it kind of makes me sad. We all see where this is going, and I'm in no hurry to get there. I'd rather wait until we know we need that expansion. And when I say I support alternative 2, it's not that I don't see the need for alternative 3, but I'm in no hurry to get there. And I wish there were some graceful way that we could move when the time is right to alternative 3, but I'm not sure we're there today. And if we were to pass some kind of motion that says, yeah, we see alternative 3 coming, but let's hold off, give those owners a chance to respond. Commissioner Ash, did you have something?
Yeah.
I'm all done. I'm always done.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration, and I don't know if right or wrong solutions. But, you know, I went through kind of a little bit of an exercise that, you know, looking at the state, because we're a GMA state, Growth Management Act, and, you know, and looking at some of the problems, like I mentioned before, the high cost of housing, et cetera. And you get down to Bothell in there, they're $900,000 for a lot, you know, before you get to the house, which is way beyond the median income. But I took and I looked at, well, what's the boundaries? I mean, are we really encroaching into the world, into the natural environment, et cetera? And I think we're only taking up, I don't have an exact number, I couldn't come to it here with this, but it's about 4 to 5%, which is some of the numbers that have been indicated, is in the UGA in Washington State. You know, and if we took, there's 7,864,400 as of 2022 people that live in this state. And if you take a family of 2.3 as the average, we could give every family a 1/4 acre, and we would only be taking up 1.38% of the state. And so then I get into some other things. We got 47% of the state is forested land, 33% is ag land, and then there's a whole bunch of others that there's not real statistics on. So we got a lot of natural and open spaces. And then I get into, and I look at the UGA or GMA states, and I go to places, non-GMA states like Texas and Georgia, or two of them, Atlanta and Houston, I took. And so, I looked at the median cost of a home. Now, if you go to Seattle, it's $800,000. Even in Snohomish County, it's $720,000. If I go to Houston, it's $263. 200, yeah, sure, I'd sure like to buy a house there, but $263,000. And even in Atlanta, which I don't know, is $420,000. And even in the Tri-Cities, it's $510,000. So I'm just kind of saying that you take this area and, from a Google image, maybe there's lots of trees, but, look at the lots and stuff. There's a lot of, mixed urban that were subdivided before GMA started, a lot of property in here. I think if there ever was a natural place to expand to, that's the area to expand to. And that's just, when you're thinking about this stuff, I don't think we're ruining the state by, it's doing that expansion. There is a lot of natural areas here. I think that we would be doing a lot to help. I mean, the reason a house in Houston is $263,000 is because, they're unrestricted. Is that good or bad? That's probably not that great one day, but I think we could open up the can just a little bit more. And anyway, that's my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ash. Why don't I turn to Vice Chair Campbell and Planning Manager, I'm going to call you David because I can't remember your last name right now. But what's the procedure we're going to follow now that we've adopted alternative 2? We're looking at each of these proposals by county council. Now, Tom, go ahead. I mean, are our hands not tied, or can we vote on each of these and possibly vote?
Yes.
No, our hands are not tied. We can vote however we want these. I think the vote for alternative 2 sets some pretty clear direction around whether you expand or not. So in my mind, I would prefer to limit the UGA expansions as much as possible, unless there's some in here that I think can be approved. This one in particular on motion 22090 is another nearly 800 acres. It requires significant transportation improvements. There was a transportation memo that said there's $11 million transportation improvement package that would go along with it in order to permit those areas. This is an area that I bike ride all the time, so I know it well. There are a lot of trees, and I think with the urban tree canopy and much of the things that we ought to, unless absolutely necessary, and I go along with your point, there's a point that Frank Slaughter made about the deficits. Part of that is in 2035, when light rail comes on, we expect more deficit. We just can't predict it yet. So the zoning isn't in place for that yet. So my strong feeling is to turn this motion down. I haven't made a motion. Nobody's made a motion on it, but I think that we, in adopting alternative 2, should be restrictive as much as possible, unless this growth is absolutely necessary and we don't have reasonable measures for infill.
So we're good for voting on each one up or down, and the alternative 2 vote stands, and it's up to staff to figure out how to link it. Planning Commissioner Killingstad, could I just ask you one question? When I was looking at the transportation memo, I roughly added up a little over $40 million in improvements needed for these county council motions. And there's a notion of, I can't remember the exact term right now, but it's where you link provision of utilities in conjunction with development. And you don't do the development first and then come along with utilities later. And as we look at each of these county council motions, can we assume that if the motion is approved by county council, they'll have independent decision rights? Can we assume that the expenditures for road transportation improvements will be made prior to allowing growth to occur under urban auspices in these areas? Can we foresee that investment will come in before their rezones occur? Is that a good question?
No, it's a fair question.
Concurrency, that's the
Yeah,
word.
concurrency is what you're getting at. And under state law, You have 6 years in which to correct an issue. I don't know if Jay Larson from Public Works wants to come up and maybe talk a little bit about the memo they put together. But yeah, once, you know, you want to come up, Jay? Yeah. Okay.
What's the linkage?
So concurrency says that if a development or if new growth creates a situation where the level of service falls below that level of service that has been adopted, then the county within 6 years has to step in and make improvements to that roadway or that transportation facility. So that's only one way that road improvements get fixed by development. Development also pays transportation impact fees, and that goes to the projects, most of which are in the transportation element. And then the other ways through frontage improvements is what we call frontage improvements. It's just a nice way of saying that you're going to build the part of the road that you're taking access off of to meet county standards. So there's a number of ways that happened. So let me talk a little bit about the memo. Is that okay that I can talk about? We sent the memo in, and really our intention with that memo was to say to you all that the project list that you see in the transportation element that you're going to consider after we get through this part is a list that assumes no UGA expansions, right? And the way we got to those projects was to say that considering the growth that is that's in these alternatives without any UGA expansions, these are the projects we feel are necessary to maintain our level of service, the level of service that was adopted by the county council and the level of service that is contained in the transportation element. So that's just this set project list. Now, what we're saying to you with this memo is if there are UGA expansions, these are the projects that are going to need to get added to that project list so that we can maintain level of service if these get added. That was really what our intention was. I do want to make a couple of the comments about the memo. The difference between alternative 2 and 3, as it has to do with the Southwest UGA, is that UGA expansion 134 and then that UGA expansion 090. Both of those would add the same projects to that project list, so that the difference between the two is there is no difference between the two. So we wouldn't do that. And then that's also the reason why you came to it 40, you said 40 some million. The real number, if you did all of them together, is really 22 million. So because there's a double counting that's in there because one UGA expansion overlaps the other one. So.
Could I toss out an idea that I have is kind of naive, but I just wonder if this is true. Is it fair to say that private investment follows public investment so that county comes in, builds these roadways, then we're going to see private investment come in and enhance them or add to them?
You know, that would be great if it did work.
So forget that one. Okay.
Most of the time, and again, and we heard that a lot during the comments that we got in. Most of the time we have to wait for grants that come in. Those grants are usually, we need to come up with a match. That match comes from impact fees. The impact fees we don't collect until after development happens. And so often we're 6 or more years behind development in doing those improvements.
Okay. It seems like it's almost like the tree thing, kind of a sensitive subject. We heard a lot of conversation, a lot of public input about 35th, Ruggs Lake and so on with high traffic volumes, high speed traffic, things like that. And I'd love to think that some of these improvements that you're talking about would alleviate some of that and help balance the justification and move us toward that alternative 3 approach. So do you want to take full responsibility for that? Okay, I think you're heading there, but it's going to take time.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Any other discussion on this proposal now, 090? And do we want to take a vote on this?
I make the motion that we support the expansion of, per the option of, or the motion at hand. So I vote that we adapt or recommend the council adopt it.
Okay,
Commission.
thanks, Commissioner Ash. We have a motion before us to adopt County Council Motion 22090, which is on the screen now. Do we hear a second? Commissioner Brown seconds. Taylor, would you go ahead and take the vote on this?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks a lot, Tom. I appreciate that. Let's have a discussion. I'm always moving. Let's have a discussion on the motion to adopt 090. It's what's before us on the screen now. Anybody wish to make comments? Commissioner Campbell.
I'll just add to the comments that I originally made. I really think the expansions of this nature and this amount, and this is an area that I've talked to neighbors in it. The roads are already at capacity here. If we keep expanding the UGA along Sunset Road, and I mean, I think 35th is already beyond capacity. It just adds to the problems. We're not bringing in infill development. I really believe we need to look at other measures to increase infill development with all the reasonable measures necessary before we add another costly, expensive transportation project and an expansion.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioner Campbell. Any other discussion? Commissioner Severs, do you have your hand up?
I was just reflecting, is this in a sloped area for the most part? Is this a hillside? I'm not really, it's flat. Okay.
Make sure the mic is up by your mouth. You got a lot of folks here put their, yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, just as to answer your question, Commissioner Severs. So portions of what we have the southern portion, but if you look at it in totality, this essentially is at the top of the slope relative to the Little Bear Creek watershed. So the UGA boundary, if we were to overlay topography on this, you would see that where the line falls is roughly at the top of the slope. There are some portions that are over the slope and some portions that fall on the Little Bear Creek side of the slope.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other discussion at this time? I'll offer a thought I have on this is, to me, it's a kind of a corridor that makes me a little bit unnervous, a little bit uncomfortable, and I'd love to see the investment in transportation improvements come in first. I don't think it's going to happen. And this is one of those actions where this particular one, where I'd like to just see this wait and not be approved at this time. I think it's necessary. I understand that, but I would not support it at this time. Any other discussion? Commissioner Bastide.
I saw a lot of comments against the UGA expansion kind of on the south end. I think it'd be a good idea to include around 43rd and the connection to Maltby Road. But there was a lot of feedback on the congestion in the south, so I think that area should be excluded.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we vote? The vote is on approval or denial of motion 22090. Taylor, would you go ahead and take the roll, please? Oh, Commissioner James, do you have your hand up?
I do. Is there any way that I can see myself and on the screen like I did at the beginning? It's like I'm gone. I'm not sure I'm actually being seen there or not. While you work on that technicality, I was just wanted to clarify, this is a council recommended addition. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. This is the way that it's characterized in the motion is it's a council referred motion, not a council recommended. A majority of the council did vote to refer this to the comprehensive plan update for further study.
Got it. And then the other thing I was just going to mention, it seems like there's like a chicken and an egg, which one comes first? You know, the expansion would signal that we need to have infrastructure, where infrastructure is not going to be considered unless they know that they can get the expansion. So kind of a chicken and an egg issue. So I'm prone to vote for it. And then I know that surrounding cities and municipalities and such are going to be careful to build smartly and wisely as they grow up and out. But I don't want to take away one of the options they have for growth just because, some of those things that we've talked about here. So I want to err on the side of the people who live there and their electeds to be able to make those decisions wisely when it's time for that. If we shut it down now, they can't. We just take it out of their hands. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Any other discussion at this time? Currently, we have a motion to approve. Commissioner Brown.
I just want to say I agree with Commissioner James with the expansion. It's that we're providing the opportunity for cities to look at this corridor. And if we are not approving it, we're taking that off the table. It's not saying that, it does open it up for development. Improvements come with development. And so you're allowing cities to look into that and to require such frontage improvements or infrastructure improvements that come in with development. So Xing that off the table now, I guess you're essentially not allowing cities to consider this area for growth at this time or in the future. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Commissioner Brown. So maybe we could talk about a little bit different approach. This is not exactly full consensus here. And maybe we could consider an amendment that would say, we have a motion to approve now. Could we do an amendment that would say, as amended, that commission, I agree, the chair should not make motions, but could we talk about some idea here, some amendment that would include encouragement of county council to move expeditiously on necessary roadway and utility improvements in this area so that we do get the service here that I think is really lacking. A 6-year lag is pretty serious. Commissioner Ash.
I think that sounds wonderful, but I don't think that the public monies are going to initiate those expansions. They hardly can keep up with what's already been done. It usually gets generated because a developer comes in, he has to meet the concurrency standards. He has to extend the sewer and water and the utilities in order to make their projects work. They usually start from the edge and work out. If somebody goes way out there and tries to come in, they have to build a lot more offsite infrastructure. So I don't think it's just not practical or the way that it would work.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ash. Commissioner James. I'm sorry, Commissioner Sheldon.
I can use one. So these are just recommendations. Of course, the council can overrule us on these decisions, correct?
That is correct.
Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and take a vote.
Quick question.
Commissioner James, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, apologize. I'm not right there. I wish I was. I just wanted to clarify Commissioner Ash's comments were directed toward adding an amendment that you had mentioned. Is that correct, Commissioner Ash?
It was really a nice dream that Commissioner Larson had, but it just
Okay.
is I was trying to clarify that it'd be hard to get the state or the county to pay for expansions first. So, or
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I was clear on that. You weren't addressing the whole amendment, but the comments by Bob. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner James. Any other discussion before we take a vote? This is a vote in favor of County Council Motion 22090. Taylor, would you go ahead and call a roll?
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner Bastide,
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
No.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Looks like we don't have a quorum.
Majority.
We're a majority. And that we had 5, as I'm seeing 5 in favor. So I'd say the motion fails. Okay, I'd love to keep talking about this one and fix it, but I don't know if we can. Okay. The vote is no on motion 22090, and we move now to motion, this is County Council motion 22095.
So if I might interject, Chair.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Commissioner James has his hand up.
Yeah, I think I just misheard. We had five voted, excuse me, 5 voted for it, positive. And how many were against?
4 were against, and in order for the commission to make a recommendation, you need 6 votes in the affirmative
Oh, I see. Okay,
per your bylaws.
thank you.
That's the quorum idea.
So if I might suggest, just for the sake of efficiency, and since you are on this topic, that maybe you jump down and consider motion 22134, which is also a council referred motion related to the Southwest UGA. We can have Frank pull that map up and give a little short summary.
Is there a mistake? It says 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 2, 1, 3, 4.
We didn't number them. Council numbered those.
Okay.
Oh, is there a mistake in the agenda? Oh, okay, it's a typo in the agenda. Sorry about that.
So discussion now is council motion 22134.
Okay, let me pull that up. Again, I'll go with the blue here. This is a portion of what we were just looking at. It's just the middle portion. So this is the area, the southern border is Maltby Road, and it heads north until it meets the area that where the existing UGA, the end of that notch there. So this area is just 300 acres, roughly 270 acres would be proposed to go to be redesignated from rural to urban medium density residential. And again, 30 acres around the Ruby Bridges Elementary School to be redesignated to public institutional use. Expected capacity increase for population would be 1,951. And same employment capacity, 208 employment capacity, which includes the employment at that school. And this was, I'm sorry, this was studied in alternative 2.
Can I ask a question? So you mentioned, Frank, that part of the issue is, and in this area in particular, Bothell is not really in their MUGA really accepting the level of density that's required. So there's pressure on the county to increase urban growth areas because the city of Bothell isn't stepping up.
No, maybe I misspoke, but it's the unincorporated Bothell MUGA where the county has the authority for the capacity, and Bothell is reviewing their plans to significantly increase capacity within their jurisdiction. And they actually question the need for this UGA expansion. But again, this UGA expansion is included in alternative 2, which you have moved to adopt as your starting point. But in reviewing our growth target, which is significant for the Bothell-Muga and does not have the benefit of being close to one of the light rail station sites, there's very large areas that we are proposing for redesignation from urban low to urban medium, but they're in existing single family neighborhoods for the most part. And the amount of capacity that is created through reasonable measures within the Bothell-Muga would not accommodate that the adopted initial growth target for 2044 unless this UGA expansion is included.
Question. So is it 2, 1, 2, 3, or is it 1, 3, 4?
1, 3, 4.
Make a motion to approve a motion number 22-134.
We have a motion to approve County Council Motion 22134. And before, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ash. David, the procedural question comes up for me. We've already voted to approve Amendment 2 of the EIS, and this is included in Amendment 2. So do we really need to vote on it? I think so.
You don't need, because you did previously move alternative 2. However, we're just bringing this up if there was a discussion of whether not to include, because in the slide that I had earlier, I did note that the starting point of an alternative, and then there is the ability to add and subtract the various parts, whether those are council motions or dockets. So really kind of dependent on where you started. Yes, you started this with alternative 2. This is included, so you can certainly move on to the next time. We just wanted to bring this up since we were in the Southwest UGA in case there was some further discussion or some additional amendments.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Campbell?
It's been moved and seconded, so it's on the table.
Yeah. Just this procedural question.
Or you can set it on the table.
And since we've got the motion and second in front of us by Commissioner Sheldon and Commissioner Brown, let's have a discussion of it. Anybody want to make any comments? Commissioner Bastide?
Okay. So I don't know if we're able to pull up the current zoning map in that area. Yeah, because my proposal would be to include the R5 zoning south of Maltby Road into this motion to be studied. Probably from like about 215th north to Maltby Road. So just below where the map cuts off. Yeah, kind of, but pretty much like from 46th east to Maltby, all those developments use the same road. And if we're going to be improving 35th, to me, it makes sense to allow people that are going to be using 45th, the connection that they're proposing. To me, it makes sense to try to include that in the urban growth area. Kind of a combination of the motion that was just didn't pass and this one now we're looking at.
So you mentioned 215th, which is a little bit further south than what I'm showing, but there is a notch that ends at 212th. 215th would go down to someplace in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly where that is.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Yep.
The wonders of modern
technology.
So cool.
Mr. James.
Would this be an amendment? I
Amendment
think
to the
we
motion.
need
That's
to,
the way I hear it.
so you're offering an amendment
Yes.
to the
Mm-hmm.
Do
motion?
you want to say that amendment to the main motion again?
Okay. Okay. I move to amend this motion to include all the R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road.
I'm so sorry. Can you speak a little bit louder and one more time?
Sorry. North of 215th to Maltby Road be included in the rezone
Where's,
motion.
Second.
where's the eastern boundary to that?
So the eastern boundary would be Maltby Road and the western boundary would be the current extents of so the farther line over to the left.
Which one's Maltby Road? I'm kind of, I didn't.
Maltby
I
Road
thought it-
is actually this
Yeah,
here.
it's that one. It goes east and west, doesn't it?
So,
Isn't that the east and west one that's curving down, the big kind of?
so the question is,
Can I draw?
yeah, you can draw, you can touch it. Yeah.
So that area that you see in the smaller lots is pre-GMA zoning. That either was developed as a rural cluster or as a development at half-acre lots. And would just like to note and appreciate the clarification, so we have that up here. Would just note that the area that's shown from the proposed dash line running north-south just east of 46th Avenue to the area that Commissioner Bastide just drew, that area was not included in alternative 3, and it would be outside the scope of the environmental impact statement, which may or may not require additional environmental analysis to be completed post planning commission.
So we would need findings to support our decision.
Correct.
Do you want to stay with that motion, Commissioner Bastide, or do you want to withdraw it?
I think at minimum, we should include the area to the blue line that's in the motion 2090 into motion 22-134.
So we have a motion to amend the main motion made by Commissioner Bastide and seconded by Commissioner Sheldon to include all R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. Did I correctly capture that? I'm a little concerned that we've expanded the map now. I don't think that was the original intent.
Well, that's originally what I was looking at, just because all those parcels use that area. There's a lot of public comment from those landowners that I felt they were in favor of being included, and they wanted to see the expansion and connection of 45th to Maltby Road due to traffic. And safety issues. And so I thought that was kind of what I had looked at as a potential and open to discussion and feedback from other commissioners.
Doesn't that qualify as a finding when she's quoting that her support is public comment?
Yes, yeah. As my slide noted, you can rely on oral and written testimony for findings.
Okay. So we have a motion before us to accept 22-134, and then a alternative motion or an amendment to it to add the R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. And are we done with discussion at this point? David, do you want to say something?
I would just note, I think under Robert's rules, I think it would be, since a friendly amendment was proposed, put on the table, then the original makers of the motion and the seconder would just need to accept the friendly amendment, and then you would just be voting on the motion as amended.
Can you capture all that for us, Taylor? Because if I try and repeat David, it's going to be ugly. Commissioner James, your hand is up. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No,
Okay,
Yep, apologize. Yep.
all right. Commissioner Campbell, did you have something?
not to quibble too much here, but there is the main motion on the floor. Now, it's been proposed, however, I don't know that it's been seconded, that,
Yes.
was
it
there a
has been.
second on the,
Commissioner
on the
Sheldon.
secondary motion?
Yes.
Yes.
No, my point is that the amendment by Commissioner Bastide has to be voted on and seconded, has to be moved and seconded. Then you vote on them. If it's approved, then you vote on the main motion again.
So
You're
so
correct.
we amend the
You're
main
correct.
motion first.
So now,
Delete that.
since it's been proposed, it has to be moved and seconded that we include all R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. So did you second that motion, Commissioner Sheldon?
Yes.
Okay.
Moved by Commissioner Bastide, seconded by Commissioner Sheldon. This is a amendment to the main motion. And we need to vote on that first to include all the R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. And staff tells us that because we had public testimony, that does fit the criteria for finding. So at this point in time, do we have more discussion on the amendment to the main motion? Commissioner Campbell.
I really don't like making motions on the fly where we add territory, and although it was included, I believe, in the previous 090, is that correct? But yours, is it now within or not within the EIS area?
So I'll walk up to the map here. We've got a
I'm
lot of
confused.
colors on here. Sorry, it's probably confusing. It's probably good that we clarify. So this area here that's got the blue, that portion was included as part of the larger motion 090 and was included in the EIS.
Okay.
This portion from the blue line out to the red line that the Commissioner Bastide drew, that portion was not analyzed in the draft EIS and may require additional environmental review post planning commission. And we talked about that in the back on September 26th, how the bookends for the actions are the draft EIS. Anything goes beyond the bookends may require more environmental analysis.
And so it is inclusive. Your amendment now is the blue. So it is included in the original
Well,
EIS. Is that true?
I'd be willing to discuss what other commissioners are feeling if they'd like to include the blue or have the county look at including the red line.
I'm just in the middle of discussion. So my point is I would not be in support of adding the red portion. I don't want us to go through additional EIS statements. I'm actually opposed to it in principle anyway. So I'm a no on it. It's instructive to me, Frank, you mentioned that the city of Bothell is opposed to this. Was that true?
The city of Bothell provided testimony and they believe the UGA expansion is not necessary for the Bothell Muga.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment to the main motion at this time? Commissioner Bastide's motion. It is seconded. Any other discussion? So at this point in time, we can vote on the amendment to the main motion to see if that passes or not. Okay, Taylor, would you go ahead and take the roll, please? Oh, did you?
So just to clarify, does it include the red area or not the red, just up to the blue?
Yeah, let's go ahead and modify, so north of
Write it up there.
215th to Maltby Road from motion 22-09 to be included. Did you get that, Taylor?
Okay. Are you okay with that answer? Okay, good. So I think we can take the roll now on the vote for the amendment to the main motion.
Can
And
we
that's-
restate the amendment to the main motion?
Amendment to the main motion is Commissioner Bastide asked to include all R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. And can you see that on the screen, Commissioner James? It's the area that's hand-drawn in red there with an X in it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not the red area, it's the blue
Excluding the
area.
with the X.
man, oh man, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, start over there.
Thank you. Yeah, let's erase that sucker. If that's the case, then we don't need findings, right? We're clean of the findings.
Environmental impact statement.
You still want findings for this amendment because it's not included in alternative two.
Okay,
What? Oh, boy. I'm confused.
Right,
as
got
what
that.
The amendment is.
got that. Okay, so we have an amendment to the main motion. I'll read it again and then we'll take the vote. Include all R5 zoning north of 215th to Maltby Road. And Taylor, why don't you go ahead and take the roll? This is an amendment to the main motion. 5 acres.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yeah.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes,
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
I count 6. Secondary motion passed. Now we have a main motion that includes a passed secondary motion. And the main motion is, if I can find my way around my notes right now, is County Council Motion 22-134 as amended. Any discussion on that now that it's, we now have a amended secondary motion? Any discussion? Oh, Commissioner James, thanks.
Apologies.
Okay. Hey, we're watching you. That counts. Okay, any discussion? Taylor, would you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes,
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
8 in favor, motion passes. Thank you very much. And we have 2 of our 5 county council map motions done. And at this point in time, David, I'm thinking we move back up to 22-095.
Yep. And we'll get
Go ahead,
Frank.
Frank. Let's talk about that one.
Okay, so council motion number 22-095 is the Stevens UGA expansions. There are 3 areas of expansion for this one that are in separate parts of the UGA. This map here shows future land use and the locations of those. One is on the west side of Lake Stevens UGA. This is along Sunnyside Boulevard. One is to the south along State Route 9, an area that has existing commercial, and then the other is on the east side, an area that includes former Lake Stevens landfill and some additional properties that are in between that and the existing UGA boundary. And we have close-ups for each of those. This is area 1, the Sunnyside Boulevard area. So this proposal here would be add 216 acres to the west side for designation of urban low density residential with our 7,200 zoning, roughly 600 population capacity. This is area 2, including the right of way. It's roughly 11.5 acres along State Route 9. As I said, existing commercial uses. So the additional capacity net of those existing uses is potentially 8 population and 15 jobs. And then this is area 3 on the east side, addition of 86 acres south of 4th Street, west of 131st Avenue, northeast for urban low-density residential on the properties over here and public institutional use on this site here, and zoning of R9600 across the entire area, roughly 150 population capacity.
Thank you,
That
Frank.
concludes my remarks.
Okay, this is back into alternative 3 area. And is there any discussion, questions, any thoughts on this proposal? 22-095. Commissioner Ash.
I heard Frank say it was R9600, but I just was confirming that it was, this is not in the UGA, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Right, that would be the proposed to change it from the existing designation.
I do know that Lake Stevens they're running out of residential land. I know that the city itself cannot, they've got very few acres left. So I think the city, and for them to meet their specific, any growth needs, they would have to get some expansion someplace. I don't know if there's UGA places they could go or why they picked those. I would assume that the one area is for a school, the public institutional area, I would just guess, but.
This motion was referred by the county council without the input of or
they didn't give you the details.
I don't have the
Yeah.
I don't have an application from the
Okay.
city that describes the motivation for it or what the use.
Okay,
I haven't
Thank-
heard that it's a school. I haven't heard that, but
all right.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Campbell.
You know, Frank, I feel like I tried to go and read about these, like the other motions, the dockets had pros and cons and details about them. And I really had a hard time deciphering these motions as to what the implications were for them. And I didn't know when in the land use map, there's some pieces of it, but it was very difficult for me to really get a handle on the implications of. This is 313 acres. This was proposed by the city of Lake Stevens. I just didn't have enough context to even make an evaluation on it.
so it is described in the map report. Maybe some additional context. City of Lake Stevens has a shortfall for employment capacity, but not for residential capacity. The unincorporated area has this very small shortfall in employment capacity with very, very, very small 21.
And this also requires a transportation improvement of 8.5 million was also part of the transportation memo, as I remember.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm getting a head nod in the back. And just to provide some additional or to respond to your question, the docket amendments have codified criteria to which staff is required to review and make a recommendation based on. The council motions do not, and that is a distinct difference between the two, and why you saw a different level of detail for the dockets relative to the council motions, because they are actually two different things. And where we did not make recommendations on council motions because of the docket criteria that are in the code, we did make recommendations. There's sort of a yes, no process for reviewing a docket application.
So I make a motion on number 22-095.
And do we want any other discussion or we're going to have a second?
Your motion was to approve it or to deny it?
To approve it, then if it doesn't get seconded, it just dies.
Yep. Commissioner Sheldon's recommended, made a motion to approve.
That's the easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
We-
gonna second it.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sheldon. Sheldon, do we have a motion to second?
He did.
I did second.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You
Commissioner,
seconded
Commissioner Ash seconded.
Commissioner
Thank you very
Sheldon's
much.
Motion.
Any discussion?
I would just like to say there are lots of public comments against this expansion of the UGA due to critical areas and concerns from farmers. And looking at the topography and the critical areas, I don't really think it makes sense to expand the Lake Stevens UGA.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Sheldon?
I worry a little bit more on the left side of the lake, especially with all the creeks running down that way, especially when we're kind of in reading all the literature that you sent us that were sensitive areas. So that might make my concern. Is it sensitive or not sensitive?
I have a little bit of history on it. One of the first big projects I worked on in 1995 was doing an urban growth area plan for Lake Stevens. This area was very.
David, make sure you got that mic up to your mouth.
I don't have it on. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem.
There we go.
Maybe that's a good thing. So the question that, or the comment that Commissioner Sheldon was asking was regarding sensitive areas. As it, unfortunately, this map doesn't show streams, but what I can tell you is the reason that this notch exists is because there is a stream corridor that comes right through here and creates a very large ravine. There are other corridors and streams that come off of the hill and drain into the Snohomish River across the farmland. So I think there's like three separate stream corridors that do cut through here. The topography is very steep, and it is a primary reason why it was excluded from the urban growth boundary back in the early days of GMA for here. This area, as Frank described, is an employment area. If you've driven down Highway 9, you see the little commercial area that's here. This area is a former county landfill here, and then there is some intervening property that was needed to be included in the UGA such that we didn't create kind of a gap or an island. We don't do that as part of UGA expansions, but yes, this has very steep slopes and a considerable amount of critical areas, which is why it was originally excluded from the Lake Stevens UGA.
Why was it included? What does that accomplish?
There was interest. One area that is a bit of an anomaly is the Valterra View subdivision. It was originally applied for prior to the adoption of the Growth Management Act, but because of issues in trying to determine how to deal with its drainage, it took about almost 15 years to get approval through the permit process. By the time they got approval, it had been taken out of the Lake Stevens UGA. So I know one of the motivations that the council was to be able to bring in this. This is developed at urban densities. There are 90s, they're about quarter-acre lots that currently sit outside the Lake Stevens UGA. Again, I can't speak beyond that as far as the rationale for including those other areas in the UGA. As Frank said, it doesn't bring in a whole lot of capacity.
Okay.
Ryan has his hand up.
Ryan Countryman.
If I could just, yeah, go ahead and let Ryan in.
Okay.
Right. Well, yeah, thank you, Taylor, for promoting me to a panelist. So yeah, David and Frank discussed a lot of things on these parts of the Lake Stevens proposal. The main thing that I would add is just a clarification that part on the east that's currently a landfill, it was not proposed for a school. I believe the mayor had contacted county council about putting that in the UJ to transfer ownership to the city so that like a ball field could be put on top of the landfill. So it won't be a school, it would be a park use. And then the residential in between was surrounded on 3 or 4 sides. So that was the rationale on that part. And also just based on the nature of some of these prior conversations, any of these motions that are referred from the county council, what they're looking for is recommendations. And the motions were the largest expansions on those UJs. So like here with Lake Stevens, you got 3 areas. So, you know, if the planning commission supported all 3, it'd be good to know that. If the planning commission only supported 1 or 2 of those 3 areas, then it'd be good to know that. Or if the planning commission wanted to amend any of those 3 areas for Lake Stevens, that is also good information for the council to have. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Commissioner Campbell.
Given that flexibility, I would move to exclude the western portion upper left and include the former landfill and the commercial area down below.
Thank you for saving time.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Campbell, seconded by Commissioner Bastide to include, I'd say Sunnyside Road.
Remove. Remove.
Right, exclude Sunnyside Road. And what was the other one? Exclude, right? It was to remove them.
Keep the other 2.
Right. That's the way I hear it too. Exclude just that one area to the west. Okay. And then you mentioned another area too.
The 2, the landfill and the commercial area on Highway 9.
Mark that one too for us, would you?
It's marked the blue at the bottom.
Commissioner Campbell, was that to exclude or include? Sorry.
Try this again.
Exclude.
The red is excluded, correct. Down below on Highway 9 is included, that little rectangle on 9. No. Oh, that's excluded. Yes?
Yeah.
That means red. Maybe blue means include. Okay. So we only have 2 remaining areas left. Those are included.
And we had a second from who?
Yeah.
Commissioner Bastide. So we have a secondary motion to exclude the Sunnyside area and include the landfill. Is that right? Include the landfill. Is that printed up here? Sunnyside Road and include the landfill. Okay. Got it.
Got it.
Okay. So if I say Sunnyside Road exclude and include the landfill area and rural business area. That helps so much. So we have a motion, a secondary motion on the main motion, and we need to vote on this first. By Commissioner Campbell, seconded by Commissioner Bastide to amend the map before us. This is County Motion 22095 to include to remove the Sunnyside Road and include the landfill area and rural business area. And we need to vote, any discussion on the secondary motion. Commissioner Severs.
I just wanted to add, Mr. Wright from the city of Lake Stevens wrote a pretty compelling letter on record here and just supported one of these areas down south is he's talking about how it's essentially an urban area. So this is just going to bring utility and access. It will strengthen this area. He doesn't specifically point out anything on the west side, but these other 2 areas are they're called out.
So Commissioner Severs, are you okay with the secondary motion as it is?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Commissioner James.
Thank you. Again, I think that the mayor and council in Lake Stevens know best what's good for their city, and they're also very cognizant of what happens with creeks. And I think that those creeks on the west side, we're talking about excluding it because of the fact that there's creeks there is what I heard. Aren't there, excuse me, aren't there laws and there's federal state laws that protect creeks and waterways? And, you know, the fact that we, you know, approve to the council or recommend to the council that this is okay to let Lake Stevens, you know, have that area there, it's not going to be bulldozed down and all that there. It's like the picture seems like it got painted that, you know, it's creeks. We have to save the creeks. And it's like, I think that Lake Stevens knows that they're a water city and they understand water importance, and they're not going to damage or hurt or harm or allow them to be harmed. Just saying that, the fact that because there's creeks there is not a good enough reason to exclude that particular area to the west.
Thanks, Commissioner James. I'll jump in. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Bastide.
So I think the main reasoning on my part for removing that area is obviously critical areas, but also based on public comment and concern for traffic in the area. And a lot of the farmers that live over there don't want it to be included in the urban growth area.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. The public testimony was pretty compelling. Any other discussion? Okay, let's move to a vote on the amendment to the main motion, which is to remove Sunnyside Road and include the landfill area and rural business area. These are motion by Commissioner Campbell and Bastide. Taylor, would you please take the vote on the amendment to the main motion?
Commissioner Severs,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
No.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
No.
and Commissioner Ash.
I'm going to say no too, just to even out some of these.
So my count on this vote is 5 in favor, and so the amendment fails. So we will be including the area on the west side there. Okay, so the secondary motion fails. We're back to the main motion, which is to, I believe it was, approve 222-095 as amended, as proposed by, geez, I gotta go find who voted on, Sheldon and Ash, Commissioner Sheldon and Ash. Motion by Sheldon, second by Ash. 22095. Any discussion? Taylor, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Severs,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
No?
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner Bastide,
No.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
What a power position.
Yeah, no kidding.
Commissioner Ash.
Yeah, I was compelled by Commissioner James's argument to let the city deal with it. I think they have to deal with, I think it's a terrible place to build, but I'm going to say yes.
We don't really have an action on this. It breaks even. They're both 5.
No.
No recommendation.
2, 3, 4, 5. 2. Yes, correct. Thank you. 5 and 4. No recommendation though. What do we do, David? Just,
Move on to the next one.
I'm all for that. So,
22.
so 2295 question mark. Moving down to 22-098. Frank, what's next?
We have a break.
I move to
It's-
take a break.
I second
I
it.
could use, I was waiting for 7:30, but that sounds good. We'll take a 12-minute break. Come back at 20 minutes after. Okay, everybody, are we ready to get back to work? Test. Okay, Frank, 22-098.
So we'll give Frank a moment to get the maps reset up here on the easel. So we're moving down to the Maltby UGA.
Thank you. So council motion 22-098. This is Maltby UGA expansions. Again, there are 3 separate areas, total of 255 acres plus additional right of way. So area 1 is to the north. And let me minimize for just a moment. Area 1 is to the north west of Maltby, the existing Maltby UGA, 142 acres plus additional right of way. Generally east of State Route 9 and out to the intersection of Maltby Road and State Route 9 with urban commercial, urban industrial, and public institutional future land use designations in place of rural residential basic. And to the south, so there's actually 2 different areas shown on this map. So to the south is area 2, add 112 acres to the southeast of the Maltby UGA, extending down to the county line, including 11.5 acres for urban industrial designation and roughly 100 acres for school district property proposed for public institutional use. And the third is it's very small. It's located right here. So this is 0.87 acres of land west of State Route 9, where there's a little notch in the existing UGA. This would fill in that notch, redesignate that to urban industrial, and it also includes a small property here that actually already has an overlapping building that goes across the UGA boundary at that location. So that's could be seen as a correction of a past mapping error at that location. And those are the proposals for the Maltby UGA.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? Commissioner Campbell.
So Frank, if you that's Wellington Hills where the North Shore School District owns portion of that, right? And then the Carousel Ranch is also what the county bought for their park. So if you exclude the properties that Snohomish County and the school district have in that, how many acres are remaining? Are we talking about I know you probably can't do this on the fly, but I know that those are already zoned and incorporating them adequately into it. I'm just concerned of how much residential zoning on an already completely busy road. We're adding, and I note that I think it's a $9 million transportation component on this one too. And I'm curious how that adds in. He probably has to say that, but I'm just curious if you take Wellington and Carousel out of the North Shore, Wellington and the Carousel Ranch out of it, what's remaining that would be residential zoning that we're adding in as an urban growth area?
So I don't know the exact number, but I imagine that it's if the entire thing is 255 acres, that it's the public institutional uses are probably making up in the range of 200 of those acres.
And we can certainly have Public Works come up if you want to get some clarification on the transportation improvements aspect of your comment. I will also note that I think the portions that are outside of the public use, I think a portion of what's in the council motion is employment related and not residential related.
So in the memo, we talked about the need to improve 240th Street. Yeah, 240th Street. And that's really just to serve that Wellington Hills property, and whether that's developed, you know, as it could be if it went into the UGA, or if that is even still going to be school property. That's a very narrow, windy road. We're going to need bicycle and pedestrian facilities on it, and we think we need improvements to that road. So that's where that $9 million is.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Ash.
So the larger piece north of the Caramel Ranch, is that proposed to be residential development? What was that?
None of the designations are residential, but the area that is around the intersection of Malpe Road and State Route 9 is currently rural business.
Okay.
And the proposal would be to bring it in as urban commercial, and with planned community business zoning is the staff PDS staff recommendation for the implementing zoning at that location.
And the other piece that was down next to the high school or the North Shore School District piece, same thing?
Well, if I could just, Frank, if you just go back up, just want to note that, and I'll note on the map here. So the area that Frank was referring to that's RB is here, right, and the Carousel Ranch properties here. There is some intervening properties which were included. Otherwise, you have a gap in the urban growth boundary. So just want to note that this is the area that's RB. There is some intervening land that could be, I think, for residential, and then there is the Carousel Ranch. It would be for commercial? Oh, urban industrial. Okay.
I see we have Ryan Countryman, council analyst. Ryan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Larson. Just like to clarify a couple of questions. On the original motion that referred, this does have the acreage. The amount of public institutional uses is a little bit, it's like what Frank said, it's actually 215 acres. There would be 24 acres that would go to industrial uses. Most of it is that little pocket down by the school properties, but there's also a couple of random houses along the Highway 9 part. And then the 17 acres that would go to urban commercial would be all that property that's currently for rural business. One other thing I think I would add to, for context, to some of what Jay Larson said about 240th, is that the need for improvements to 240th would likely result from development on the school properties themselves, in which case it may be the school district that would be responsible for some of those road improvements, because it would be difficult for the schools to achieve access from the west which is part of the requirements for those properties if they are to develop as schools.
Thanks, Ryan. Any other deliberation at this point? Commissioner Ash?
Well, I mean, I just get into kind of supporting this. I don't know, maybe Tom and I can get on the same page on this one, but we got it's business, and if the UGA needs anything, it's business to keep people from driving off to remote places to work. I know that since it's not really increasing the residential areas and it's promoting for the schools and the parks, I'd say that we should support it. And I would like to recommend that make a motion that we approve it as recommended by staff, or approve for recommendation, or recommend an approval to the. Okay, I'll get all my words straight here in a minute, but I recommend that we provide a recommendation to the council that they approve this as written by staff.
We have a motion. Go ahead. We have a motion by Commissioner Ash to approve County Council Motion 22-98 as written. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second for Commissioner Nemella. And Commissioner James, did you have a question?
I seconded it, but that's okay.
Okay. We'll stay with Commissioner Nemella. Thank you. Any discussion at this time?
And a little more discussion. So what's the advantage of rezoning this to urban commercial? What, as opposed to rural business, what are we inviting that we would not already be able to do in this area?
Yeah, I can probably speak to that since it's a council motion. If that's your wish, Chair Larson.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so starting on the north at the intersection of Maltby Road, the advantage of redesignating that urban commercial instead of rural commercial is that those commercial properties could then connect to sewer. There is currently sewer infrastructure in the road, but they're not able to connect because that sewer was installed after the UGA line was drawn, and you're not allowed to connect to sewers outside the UGA. Most of those properties are already developed, but if they had sewer, might be able to do additional buildings on those commercial properties and get some infill commercial in that location. The sewer connection would be better for Little Bear Creek. The potential of infill commercial would make traffic a little bit worse. So it's kind of a pick your poison on that part. The little notch that Frank described, it's really just a mapping error where there's one commercial building that's outside the UGA. There's another building that's split by the UGA, very small adjustments there. And then the one of the advantages that wasn't discussed in the PDS staff report for the school property is that there are different standards for walking conditions for developments near schools, where if the schools are in the urban growth area, then you have to have sidewalk connections to the schools. But if the schools are outside the UGA, then you don't have to have sidewalk connections. An advantage to the school district is if these schools are in the UGA, then they can connect to sewer and potentially build slightly larger schools than if they had to reserve a portion of that site for drain fields for schools that would be on septic. So those are kind of the pros and cons. The bigger schools, of course, have the downside of more traffic, but there is a need for schools. So again, it's all about trade-offs. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. At this time, we have a motion by Commissioner Ash, seconded by Commissioner Nemella to approve 22-098 as written. Any other discussion before we vote? Seeing none, Taylor, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide, Vice Chair Campbell,
Of course.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Nemella,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Looks unanimous. County Council Motion 22-98 passed. Thank you very much. And we have one more, Council Motion 22-099. Frank.
Yes, thank you. So Council Motion 22-099, this is an expansion of the Monroe UGA. It's on the west side of the Monroe UGA, north of US 2. And this would expand the UGA by 68 acres between US 2 and Roosevelt Road, redesignate it from rural residential within the rural urban transition area to urban low density residential on the future land use map with R7200 zoning. And it would add roughly 550 population capacity.
Any discussion?
A motion to approve 22-99.
We have a motion to approve 22-099. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Severs. Any discussion?
Can you zoom back out a little bit? I'm lost of where we are. And is this bottomland? Is this farmland? What is it now?
It's slow.
It's above Highway 2. I'm just needing orientation. I can't get it off that triangle.
It's up in the green, but it's, it's kind of odd.
So you can, so
That's
just
currently farmland, is that correct?
it's currently zoned R5. You can see Highway 2 there. This is before the and then Roosevelt Road is along the east side. So it's a combination of, I think it's, you can see that it's mostly open pasture, non-vegetative. I think that's the former Diamond M on the south side of Highway 2 as you're coming in before you get to that first stoplight. That's kind of the general area that we're at. That's I think the Tractor Supply store and the Jack in the Box there on the lower right corner.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Bastide?
I know Ryan has his hand up and maybe he can answer this. What was the goal behind adding this area to Monroe UGA?
So
Or
I can,
thinking?
yeah. So this was the property owner initially made this request to the county council, and it was then included as a council referred motion to the planning commission.
And how are the growth targets in Monroe?
I'll let Frank answer that.
So the city of Monroe has a shortfall both in terms of population capacity and employment capacity, but the unincorporated UGA has large surpluses of capacity. So overall, there's no shortfall of capacity in the Monroe UGA.
Any other questions or discussion?
Here, if I may, there was a question on what type of land this is. The upper part along Roosevelt Road is developable. The lower part along Highway 2 is largely wetland and not developable, but because of the shape of the parcels and ownership pattern, the proposal was drafted to keep ownerships contiguous. And likely what would happen is if this were included in the UGA, there would be a subdivision or a series of subdivisions on the upper part along Roosevelt Road, and then the lower part closer to Highway 2 would be put into open space tracts for wetland buffers and protections.
Thanks, Ryan. Commissioner Campbell?
just for, in terms of my discussion and my position on this, I would not be in favor of adding this into the UGA. I think that Monroe has capacity in their area to expand. I don't see a compelling need, except for probably a landowner wants to subdivide above wetlands, and I think it would be a problematic piece of property anyway.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would like to request, Taylor, can you update that Severs is the one who seconded?
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve 22-099 from County Council with Commissioner Sheldon recommending approval and Commissioner Severs with second. Any other discussion before we vote? Taylor, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
No.
You're gonna get your nose.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
No.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Looks like we have a no vote again. No recommendation.
Yes.
5-4.
6, yes.
James.
Good discussion. And this gets passed on to County Council. That finishes the County Council motions. I thank everyone for their efforts on this. And now we move to item C on the agenda. Final docket 21, City of Darrington, item number 1. This is listed as DR1. David, are you going to handle that or Frank?
Okay, so the first docket proposal that for consideration is for recommendation is docket DR1, Town of Darrington. This proposal would, let's go back to the main, would remove 262 acres to the west of the Darrington, the west portion of the Darrington UGA, remove it, redesignate it to rural. And would add 160 acres to the north for mix of uses that are urban uses, and to the south would add 7.8 acres for urban low density residential 3. And let me show the close up on addition 1 area. So this shows the proposals here. So the north portion here would be proposed to be redesignated from rural residential 5, rural diversification to urban low density residential 3, which the implementing zone there is R 12,500. So that's roughly 3 units per acre because this area does not have sewer service. So it doesn't have the same zoning requirements as the rest of the urban growth areas. This area here would be redesignated from rural industrial to urban industrial, and the areas over here would be redesignated from several designations to public institutional use that's as studied. The proposal would have a net gain of 38 population capacity. Now this proposal was submitted as an urban growth area swap, which is supposed to be capacity neutral. So having a 38 population capacity is not consistent with it being an urban growth area swap. The recommendation for this proposal is to deny. That is one of the reasons why it also includes the area within the floodplain, which is not allowed under GMA to be included in the urban growth area. And there are a couple other concerns associated with this proposal as well.
Any discussion? Thank you, Frank. Commissioner Ash?
Well, I just request, what are some of those other issues? I mean, I guess the floodplain is pretty clean, but you said there's several issues that why you recommend it doesn't be approved.
Sure. And they're detailed in the staff report that was provided to the Planning Commission. The third issue is that there is a new provision in Growth Management Act that was adopted after this proposal was originally submitted, but that would still apply for this proposal, a UGA swap. So we already had the concept of UGA swaps within our countywide planning policies. And this proposal would not meet those requirements because of the population capacity and the floodplain issue. But under state law, it also would need to have less than 15% of the addition areas be critical areas. And this current proposal that was as studied is slightly more than 15%. And partly that's the area that in the floodplain, and partly that would there's still would exceed 15% if the floodplain alone was removed.
The floodplain was removed, it would still exceed 15%. I mean, so if they had basically given a proposal that was more consistent with the state laws and county guidelines, et cetera, it would be accepted. It's just that it's outside of, doesn't meet the criteria right now, the way they proposed it. Is that why you're, because the city of Darrington's kind of out there and it seems like they seem like the poor child, left out in the cold, but they must have had a reason for wanting to do it.
This proposal was already revised from their original application, and we are recommending to deny, but the staff report does identify that if there were revisions to the proposal, that potentially it would meet the requirements.
Would the commission be able to recommend approval based on removing critical areas and floodplain zones? I mean, would that swing the balance? Or we could do an amendment, a motion that includes removal of critical areas and floodplain areas.
That's certainly within your purview. However, I would note what Frank led with in his summary was that there is also a population capacity difference. So there would need to be a corresponding amount of land removed in order to make the add and the area removed equals 0 for population.
Okay.
I have a quick question. In the public comment provided by the mayor and Reed Shockey, they did, I guess, address the inconsistencies and said that if it was met, they must have a plan to adjust, but it sounds like they put in one plan, they've made modification, and it's still not meeting those 3 criteria. Would it be appropriate to approve it if they were to meet all of these 3 criteria? Let them sort out. Is that possible? I guess that's what I'm asking.
So it's possible that a revised proposal or different information about the proposal could mean that the proposal would have met the criteria, and it's within the Planning Commission authority to make a recommendation that includes amendments to the proposal. I should note that there is a 4th consideration, which is that there is an area that is currently designated commercial forest, and if that area was added to the UGA, it could not be redesignated or rezoned as proposed. And so there would also be a need to either exclude that area or to change how it is being proposed for addition to the UGA as well.
Commissioner Campbell.
Well, I do want to support Darrington. I don't know exactly how. I think we're all struggling a little bit with that. I mean, I wouldn't characterize it like Commissioner Ash is out there in the middle of nowhere, but I think it's a beautiful area and, you know, they have challenges and I think that they're doing some really good work with some interesting timber production and laminated strand board stuff. And I like what they're trying to do, but given all the criteria that they're not meeting, it feels difficult to approve something that clearly needs more revision. So I don't know where that enables us to stand, except that I would encourage or move that on this docket, that the city of Darrington make necessary amendments based on the requirements of a UGA swap and submit it to the county council.
It's been moved to approve this amendment based on necessary changes that need to be made through staff. Commissioner James?
Thank you. I don't know what the requirements of a UGA swap are. And one of the criteria I heard was that there are 38 units residential growth area that are going to be added. Their population there is only about 1,466. So is it when they compare, I don't know if they're comparing residential swaps, do they compare by raw numbers or are they comparing by the city size, the growth that's going to happen? Because it's close to 3% growth. If that's what you're looking at, I don't know what are they swapping for? What are they getting or giving? Can somebody explain that to me?
So the concept of a UGA swap is that there would be no additional capacity added. There's sufficient capacity within the Darrington UGA to accommodate the growth targets. So there's no rationale for a UGA expansion. And by adding population capacity, it does not meet the requirements for a UGA swap, which is in the countywide planning policies. That it's detailed in the staff report to the planning commission.
Okay, so swap is a misnomer. There's just swapping for non-UGA is what you're talking about.
Removing one section of the UGA and adding a different area outside the UGA that
Exactly
results in no increase in capacity.
That's what I wasn't understanding. Thank you.
Commissioner James, Commissioner Bastide.
I would just like to add that I believe DNR did comment that they were against this because their land is being taken out of the UGA. So is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, right now we have a motion by Commissioner Campbell recommending approval of proposal with that they meet criteria. And we're waiting for a second.
They did. He did.
Commissioner Ash, give a second. And any discussion? Commissioner Sheldon.
We did hear from, which we very seldom hear from Swack Swaddle, and say that 3 times twice. And that'd be pretty tough. And received a letter asking not to approve of this. It's rare.
Yeah, that is correct. Much like the question from Commissioner Bastide about the DNR letter, you did hear testimony, oral testimony from a member of the Soxhawtl tribe, and there was a letter that was submitted that did object to moving this proposal forward.
Okay, under the heading of discussion, I do agree with Commissioner Campbell. I'd really like to be able to support this, but it just looks like it has too many broken parts. I'm not sure how to fix it. And we're not in a hurry tonight. We want to talk about a fix, or it looks like it's a problem to me. So I don't know. Any other discussion? Commissioner Campbell.
It may be unfixable based on all the elements that we have here. I just want to encourage them to make those fixes and to accommodate the tribal concerns and DNR concerns. I mean, there's some interest here in doing something that the city of Darrington wants, but based on all the different problems with it, I'm just suggesting we recommend, and I don't even know that I could approve this docket. I'm just suggesting that they make revisions. I mean, that's fine, Taylor, the way I think you have it written.
Well, we could, following criteria, we could add specifics
You could, but so we have floodplains, we have commercial forests, we have critical areas,
Practical
we
concern.
have population increase. I mean, it's, I can't get there.
You want to withdraw your amendment, your proposal?
Well, do we have to vote one way or another, and or we can just
I
leave it?
guess I would like to maybe recommend that we don't recommend approval, but we recommend that Darrington continue working with the county and maybe we abstain from voting or,
Is that okay, David, doing it that way? It's not really an.
Yeah, I'm not
approval.
recommending approval. I'm just
Okay.
recommending that they continue to work to meet the criteria that are necessary for an urban area swap
Okay,
and submit that to the
so
council.
it's not an approval, it's that they keep working.
Just as a point of clarification, I think it would be helpful if the motions included the town of Darrington as opposed to the use of they.
Do it again.
Continue to work with,
Yeah.
Staff?
but the town, I think, yeah, to continue to work with county staff on a docket application that can meet final approval or something. I think that was what I was hearing.
Right,
Hearing a
right.
couple of the commissioners.
yeah.
Is Commissioner Ash fine with his second as written?
Yeah, no. I think we address, I don't know, specific concern. I know what the forestry, DNR's concern, in the forest.
So we have a second by Commissioner Ash. Okay, very good. Any discussion? So motion made by Commissioner Campbell, recommend the town of Darrington continue to work with county staff on docket application that can meet the final approval, seconded by Commissioner Ash. Another chance for discussion, or we can move to a vote? Let's move to a vote. Carly, go ahead and take the roll.
Commissioner Severs,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ash.
Yes.
Very good. Unanimous approval on DR1 for Darrington. Not a no, it's hopeful for them. Hope it works. Next item, City of Lake Stevens, number 2, LS2 proposal. Frank, you want to cover that?
Thank you. The second docket proposal for consideration is LS2, City of Lake Stevens. Proposal is to add 3.42 acres to the east part of the UGA boundary for urban industrial use. And the recommendation on this was to deny. It was not included in alternative 2, but was included in alternative 3. And this would add 6 jobs of capacity to the UGA.
Thanks, Frank. Any discussion? This was Lake Stevens.
I'm hoping again that maybe Tom and I can agree on something where it's business or industrial or jobs related expansions. And I would like to make the motion that we move to approve this request, this docket item.
You'll hear a second.
Second.
You got it.
Mr. James?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner S move to approve. Commissioner James gives us a second. This is to approve Lake Stevens, number 2, LS2. Discussion that we probably should hear from staff on this too. I think there's some rural conservancy and no sewer, there's some issues here. But we do have a motion to approve and seconded.
So some of the issues with this proposal include, there's a salmon bearing stream that runs north-south through the middle of the proposal. Most of the site is in critical areas. It's within a shoreline designation of rural conservancy, which is inconsistent with being addition to the UGA. And so therefore, less than a third of the site would be developable, which is why it has such a small amount of jobs capacity. But it does help meet the shortfall capacity. I think I misspoke earlier. So there is a 22 job shortfall of employment capacity within the unincorporated Lake Stevens UGA. Although within the regional geography, urban unincorporated areas, there is a large surplus of employment capacity that this would be added to.
So it really doesn't solve a problem.
It
And it's got
is-
wetlands and no sewers. Let's see, rural conservancy, no sewer. Any other discussion on this item? Commissioner Ash?
No, and just because a property goes into the city doesn't mean that wetland and critical area protections go away, right?
Right.
I mean, they're the same or more.
Yeah, they're not exactly the same regulations, but they have to be just
Yeah, they
consistent
have
with
to be
state law.
Consistent with the state and the EPA. Okay.
Any other discussion? Commissioner
Yeah.
James, thanks.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo that too, what Commissioner Ash just said. I know we're going through a lot of that. The Marysville Cascade Industrial Center up here with, we're seeing some really positive change. Some creek redesigns or salmon are coming back because of allowing people that have investment, potential come in and build, and then they are able to improve the wetlands and make it better for wildlife and fish. So I just wanted to say that's something that I've seen happening up here, and sounds like that's what might be going to happen down here. I'm not sure who the proposed tenant's going to be, but that's why it's going to be small, because the rest of the land needs to be preserved or improved upon in order for them to build. It's kind of a trade-off usually when they do that. So
Okay, thanks, Mr. James.
Yeah.
Taylor, would you do me a favor on the motion, approve LS2? Would you put Lake Stevens in front of LS2 for me? Just so we track on that. Thanks. Any other discussion at this time? Commissioner Sheldon?
I think we're all doing a great job trying to make everything, all the fish come back, but could we do better? And that's always the question, can we do better? Of course we can do better. The way we're going to go worse. We've talked about it many times. As someone would know, this is my passion. Yes, we need to do better and somehow. So I just don't think this could work.
Commissioner Campbell?
I want to support Commissioner Sheldon on this one. I can't imagine the benefits of putting this into urban services territory. I appreciate, I've done lots of salmon restoration myself. But this, and along with it being outside of alternative 2 and a staff recommendation opposing it, then I would oppose the inclusion.
Any other discussion at this time? Okay, this is on, we have a motion right now. Motion made, Lake Stevens LS2 application by Commissioner Ash, seconded by Commissioner James. Taylor, do you want to take the vote? Everybody okay with voting? Let's take the vote.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
No.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Nope.
Commissioner James,
yes.
Chair Larson,
No?
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
And Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Five to four, five approved, four no, and this is a no vote. And that's still a message. Moving to Vegamart, Malt 1. Frank, please.
Thank you. So the next docket item is Malt 1. This is expansion to the malt UGA. It does overlap with the motion 22-098 that was already considered earlier, but we probably still want to have a recommendation on this separate as well. This would add 10.7 acres of urban industrial to the southeast part of the Malpa UGA. This was studied in alternative 3, not in alternative 2. The recommendation is to deny. It would add 73 jobs to the UGA. The Malpa UGA has a very large excess of capacity for employment and is part of the urban unincorporated areas regional geography where the Vision 2050 directs us to avoid adding additional capacity.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion, Commissioner Ash?
What kind of business is on there now? Isn't there some business on this property now?
So my understanding is that on the edge of this property, and there's a business that's essentially construction debris recycling, and it overlaps onto this property. There's also residential uses on the property as well, and that based on application and additional testimony, the desire is to basically expand that business. There's a lot of demand for recycling of construction debris as part of kind of an environmentally friendly approach to dealing with debris that comes from redevelopment as we pursue more infill.
Yeah, I mean, recycling of construction debris when we're trying to promote infill, which, that's, because otherwise, where does that debris end up? Where does it go if there's not a recycling center or place to take the debris? And to be recycled, it goes to the dump, and the dumps fill up to capacity pretty quickly. I think these are great amenities towards, infill development, or, there's the rapid transit stuff that's going to be coming through the county. There's a lot of things that are going to where lots of concrete and asphalt and stuff is going to have to go to, instead of going to the dumps. It would be better if it went and got reused. And, there's reuse in a lot of the construction right now, a lot of the recycled concrete and asphalt, which saves on, of course, exhausting the quarry supplies that are tough to come by these days. So I think it's a very good idea if that's what the plan is. So I'd have to recommend against your denial, recommending for denial.
I have a
Hey, Commissioner
question.
Ash. Commissioner Bastide.
Let's see. You said it overlaps with 22-098 and we approved 22-098, correct? So what's the difference between this and our approved 22-098?
So one difference is that this is an application that was submitted by a particular applicant, member of the public, and I think just in terms of there would be value in registering your recommendation on the individual docket item in addition to having it as part of the other proposal.
Okay, I move to accept or approve the, what is it? What do we look at? Malt 1, thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Bastide moves to approve Malt 1. We have a second from Commissioner Ash. Any discussion? Seeing none, Taylor, would you go ahead and take the roll, please?
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Can't contradict myself. Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Unanimous approval on this one. Just a question for staff. When you recommend no and the planning commission recommends yes, is that a problem? That just goes straight to council as amended, as voted. Are we in trouble? What does this mean?
Yeah, you asked that question. No, no, the recommendations that you make over the course of these deliberations will be forwarded onto the council. I will just for the sake of full transparency, the county executive does reserve the right to submit amendments to the council separate from the planning commission's recommendation.
Okay, thanks a lot, David. So we move now to Davis Johnson, Mon 2. Frank.
Thank you. The next docket item is the Mon 2 Davis Johnson proposal. This is a proposal regarding the Monroe UGA. It would add 22 acres to the north part of the urban growth area boundary for urban low density residential use. The proposed zoning is R9600 at this location. And the recommendation from staff on this proposal is to deny. There is a large excess of residential capacity within the existing Monroe UGA. And again, this is part of the urban unincorporated areas regional geography under the Vision 2050. Policy direction in the Vision 2050 is to avoid increasing capacity within the urban unincorporated areas regional geography. So the recommendation is to deny.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? Mon 2, Davis Johnson, Commissioner Campbell.
I would move that we deny this amendment.
Commissioner Campbell moves to deny Mon 2. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bastide moves to second. We have a motion to deny from Commissioner Campbell, seconded by Commissioner Bastide. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Taylor, call the roll.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Stop being fast.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Yes is to deny, right?
Correct.
No, yes is denied?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Can't
I
take it
vote-
back.
Sorry, I no.
I shouldn't have said anything.
I'm
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown,
No.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
No.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
No.
Another no
Like-
vote.
Well, I'd like to.
I want to
Clear.
maintain the in favor of that by Commissioner Ash. He can't correct himself, but he should be opposed.
Yeah, had to be careful how we voted on that one. Okay, so that was a no vote on Davis Johnson. Next one up is North Point Development LLC MV2. Frank. Yeah, no action.
The, the next docket proposal for your consideration on a recommendation is the MV2 North Point Development LLC proposal. This would add roughly 183 acres to the east part of the Marysville UGA for urban industrial uses. It would also propose deleting an objective and a policy in the land use element. So those policies specify that this area shall be designated rural residential 10 to maintain large parcel patterns for small farm and low density rural uses. And it specifies the location in LU policy 6.d.1, the area bounded on the south by 108th, on the north by the diagonal railroad line, be maintained in rural status and specialty agriculture through cluster provisions and specialty agriculture priority. So this proposal MV2 affects 183 acres that are at the north end of that area specified in that policy. That policy also applies to a total of nearly 1,200 acres that are currently designated rural residential in that area. And it would remove that policy direction to maintain that rural residential 10 designation for the 1,200 acres. The recommendation on this proposal is to deny. This was not studied in alternative 2. It was studied in alternative 3. The proposal would add a capacity of 430 jobs to the Marysville UGA.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? No discussion. Okay.
Maybe Commissioner James would have something to say about what's
Okay.
going on here. I
Thank
think
you.
this is going into the industrial park, right? Into
Yeah.
the Cascade Industrial Center.
Yeah, that's right. And I can only see part of the map. Is there a way you can either make it smaller so we can see all of it or move it around a little bit? Yeah, that helps a lot. That little is not so little, but it's a big triangle there to the east of the railroad is prime for filling out the Cascade Industrial Center, which is, what was it? I just heard the 400 and some jobs. Is that what I heard?
The capacity here would be 430 jobs. It would not become part of the Cascade Industrial Center by adding it to the UGA.
Right. But a future possibility of that, but the jobs that would be created there, like I said, it's, you're gonna, attract the right kind of building. Again, it's in a great area for building those sorts of businesses that create employment. It's not in a residential area. I know it's zoned, what is it, residential? I'm not sure, RR, what is it, residential rural? Is that what that is?
The designation is rural residential 10. The
Rural
zoning is ag
residential
10.
Yeah. Anyway, I probably don't have the best arguments right now. I apologize for not being prepared. I'm sure Commissioner Ash might be able to add to that, but it's just a common sense addition to put it in and let the growth naturally happen there for jobs. And we need to bring more jobs up so we can, I'd
Maybe
probably.
Commissioner Ash can fill in some things, but I mean, just because I got kind of a lot of experience in this whole area. I mean, both the city of Arlington and the city of Marysville have this Cascade Industrial Center. And there is a lot of industrial commercial type businesses coming into the area. I want to kind of point out too that Arlington and Marysville both right now are really bedroom communities, meaning that something like 83% of the people that live there and work are drive someplace to work down the freeway. Kind of something like we'd like to keep them off the freeway. At least I'd like to keep them off the freeway. So when I go south, I'm not running into them all the time. But I would, this area has been really developing well. I mean, we got Amazon out there. We got some electric plane motor industries. We got all kinds of stuff coming there that's really beneficial to the comprehensive plan. It's having commercial. I mean, this wouldn't be appropriate for residential development, but I think for this industrial development out here and trying to help these small cities become less of a bedroom community and more of a work community is important to GMA.
Thanks, Commissioner Ash. Any other discussion? Commissioner Bustede?
I did see a lot of public comments against this. Looking at the existing conditions, there's multiple fish streams and most of the property looks to be covered in potential wetlands. Just from my experience in the area, there's lots of development happening in Arlington and Marysville, lots of mixed use zoning and development. And I don't really see this benefiting anyone.
Any other discussion? Commissioner, yes, Commissioner Campbell.
Just to echo that point, it feels like we're adding before it's needed, and the Cascade Industrial building out very effectively. This is essentially rural residential, mixed use ag lands and the like. So until there's a compelling case that it is required and necessary to continue the development between Arlington and Marysville, I would oppose it.
Any other discussion?
Is it currently uninhabited? That was a stutter.
There are existing residential uses on the site. It's largely kind of flat fields, pasture lands. Some may still be in agriculture, some previously in ag. And across the street is the Strawberry Fields Sports Complex. And the conversation is focused on this area, but I want to remind also there's a policy proposal that affects 1,200 acres that designates this area to be rural residential 10. And would need to be either deleted or amended in order to make that change.
Thank you, Frank. Commissioner James.
The way that it was written is a little confusing, kind of like that last one we did. Can you read it again? Read the motion or the proposal?
No,
The proposal.
Just to clarify, Commissioner James, there isn't a motion on the floor for a vote.
The proposal.
So just we could re-summarize the MV2 proposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the MV2 proposal is a combination of a map proposal and a policy amendment proposal. So the map proposal would expand the Marysville UGA by 183 acres for urban industrial use. The policy amendments would remove an objective and a policy which direct that this area and the surrounding area comprising a total of 1,200 acres shall be designated rural residential 10 in the area outside of Marysville, Arlington, urban growth areas east of I-5 to maintain large parcel patterns for small farm and low density rural uses. LU policy 6.d.1 says, provide that the portion of the rural residential 10 area bounded on the south by 108th and on the north by the diagonal railroad line be maintained in rural status and specialty agriculture through cluster provisions and specialty agriculture priority.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I got it. So the proposal from PDS is to not include it, is what that sounds like in a nutshell. Is that right?
The proposal is to not amend the policies that require that this area be rural residential, and to also not add it to the UGA.
Right. Yeah, I just would love to read into the record, if I can, from our community development director, that if this UGA expansion is approved, the city would still need to research the property further before annexing it into the city of Marysville. And in addition, the city would appreciate the opportunity to work with the city of Arlington before the UGA is finalized, as it is important to note that the potential UGA expansion area is physically adjacent to Marysville. However, it is within the city of Arlington's coordinated water system plan area. So to be able to reserve this land, because I think if council makes a decision to not approve this or not allow this, into the expansion, then it's going to be what, another 10 years or more before it comes back up again, or it could be asked of council, please let us consider, growing our area like we need to. And I just don't like that restriction on there. I don't think a lot of cities do, but we work really closely with tribal elements and, to protect the environment. We're very sensitive about all of that, and working with our neighboring city, Arlington, and, all of the things being in consideration, we would like to be able to make the decisions locally and grow as responsibly as we can, and efficient, without having to go back through the governmental process of asking permission from the county to grow this way. If it makes sense to do it, we should be allowed to do it. And we do, again, I know that we do it the right way and the environmentally sensitive way. So, yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. James. Commissioner Sheldon.
I make a motion to deny MV2.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Sheldon moves to deny MV2 with a second by Commissioner, Campbell. I can tell I'm getting tired. Yeah, and so we have a motion to deny, and I'm not going to ask for two things at once here, Taylor. Good. Motion made to deny MV2, made by Commissioner Sheldon, seconded by Commissioner Campbell. Any discussion?
Just to
Commissioner Campbell.
Just to clarify, a vote in favor is to deny it. A vote opposed is to
Got it.
approve.
Vote in favor denies. Any discussion on the motion to deny? I'll offer that when I look at that land, I'm looking for adjacent light industrial, and I wish I saw it. I recognize that maybe it's in transition, but it's just, and it's down, it's kind of.
It is right next to it. It is right next to it.
Where, to which direction?
Other side of the tracks to the west.
So that's not agricultural in there?
That should be all light industrial all the way over. That's part of.
Okay,
the
bring that back down, would you,
Cascade
Frank?
Industrial Center.
Sure.
Move it back down.
Sure. The aerial is from 2019.
There you go. It's all part of the.
So that's
Cascade
currently
Industrial
light
Center.
industrial to the west side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's a big deal. Got it. Okay. Okay, thanks. Any other discussion? Taylor, would you please take the vote?
Commissioner Ash,
I may need Commissioner Campbell's
Say
help
no,
on
say
figuring. I say, what am I supposed to say?
No is to
We want
approve.
to approve the thing, so say no.
Yes, okay, well, I'm not in favor of the motion. Yeah, all right. There we go.
So you vote no.
Yeah, I vote no, I guess.
It is.
No's or deny?
No, the other way around. Yes. Yes to the motion is to deny.
That is
Do I
No
have
is
it
to
right?
approve.
A no is a motion to deny, is a move to deny.
No, a motion of
Yes.
no is
Oh,
to approve the inclusion.
Okay, so no is inclusion.
No is to approve yeah. No is to approve.
You got it
Okay.
passed on.
No is to approve.
I'm so confused right now.
Got that right.
so Commissioner Ash, was that in
I'm
favor?
opposed, yes, I'm opposed. I'm opposed to the motion.
No is to
Commissioner
approve.
Brown,
No.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Chair Larson,
No.
Commissioner Namella,
No.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
No.
I think I count 6 no's. Motion to deny fails.
That is
Right.
approved.
Right. So by default, we move to apply, to approve.
Oh.
The motion on the floor was to deny the docket
Got it. So
proposal.
the motion failed.
So the motion failed to deny it.
Okay.
Well, I
Now what do we do?
I
the motion
propose
I
to
make the
approve.
motion to approve MV2.
Can you vote twice on the same thing?
What he's telling us.
It's a new motion,
New motion.
new motion.
And what is that motion, Commissioner Ash?
The opposite of the first one was to approve MV2.
Got it.
And I
Motion to
second.
approve. We understand that. By Commissioner Ash. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Commissioner Severs seconds. We'll get this one right. No more reversed motions. Motion to approve.
Severs,
MV2.
please, on the. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't see. either
That's
side.
okay.
I'll say my name.
Motion to approve MV2 made by Commissioner Ash, seconded by Commissioner Severs. Is there a discussion? Commissioner Campbell.
I just want to make a point of clarification. By including it now, I mean, if we had not included it, it still could be revisited within the 10-year window. It's not like that a motion to rezone something has to wait 10 years. And that's what Commissioner James inferred. And I don't know if that's true.
So just for the purpose of clarification, so under state law, we're required to amend the comprehensive plan every 10 years through what's called the periodic update. So the next update of the comprehensive plan following this one would be due in 2034. However, the county has a docket process. That's what this is, a docket application that allows for citizens to submit amendments more frequently than every 10 years. UG expansions are considered major amendments, and and then we have minor amendments that are, think of a non-UG expansion. Under the currently adopted docket schedule, which is based on an 8-year cycle between updates, not a 10-year as was changed in state law, there would be an opportunity to submit a docket application before the next update in 2034. As part of this update, we will need to update the county's docket schedule, but that still will mean there will be an opportunity prior to the next update in 2034 for a citizen to submit a UG expansion.
And I that just makes my point that I think that this isn't ready yet. There's a lot of study between the two of them. The floodplain and different concerns prior to just automatically assuming it should be within the UGA. So I think that they don't have to wait 10 years. I think there's an opportunity to reconsider this in the intervening period.
Okay, any other discussion? Motion to approve is on the table right now. Commissioner Sheldon.
As we go through the land use chapters and elements down the road, they could find things that we said here, but down the element may not include this. The changes in this within the future?
I'm not 100%. I understand your question. Are you asking
Like
when we
climate
consider?
change, if things are changed in the climate, in the elements, could this change any in this motion?
So there's a part of this proposal is to delete the objective and the policy that's part of the land use element. And so by voting to recommend this, you're recommending a change to the land use element to delete those policies that protect the 1,200 acres.
In future acres in other places?
It's
No, not just in this motion.
So it covers those policies cover this vicinity. But go well beyond the docket proposal.
Maybe I can use this map to illustrate the second part of this action. See this large green area here? So here's Arlington, here's Marysville, this large green area. So do a little bear with me for a little short history lesson. So prior to 1995, when the original comp plan was adopted, this area was designated as upland commercial farmland, long-term commercial ag. Exactly the same color that this is over here on the corner of the Tulalip Reservation. In a strategic political move, in order to save the entire Stillaguamish River Valley between Arlington and I-5, the county executive at the time made a decision to redesignate this entire area from long-term commercial ag, so it would have the same protections as the upland in our river valleys, to a new designation called Rural Residential 10, with the understanding that it would still remain in its state as farmland. It just wouldn't carry the same weight that long-term designated farmland held. Over time, we have seen adjustments to the urban growth boundary line, the establishment of the Cascade Industrial Center, which has, created a different edge than what existed in 1995. So the policy that Frank referred to that talks about, maintaining this as small farms dates back to 1995. And again, it was intended because there was while it wasn't long-term commercial farmland, it still provided farmland. There is farms outside of the designated farmland. There's upland farms out here in the rural area. So this was viewed as an important resource to be protected. It just didn't carry the same weight as if it was designated long-term commercial farmland. So removal of that policy that's part of this docket proposal would apply to this entire green area, and it would potentially, it would change potentially the trajectory of what was kind of envisioned way back in 1995. Yes, time has moved on, and there's certainly the world is different today than it was in 1995. But again, policy remained that this area was to be conserved for those smaller kind of hobby type farms.
Thanks for that history, David. Commissioner James, can you see that map, or maybe David could hold that up for you real quick and point that out?
Sorry, Commissioner James, but yeah, this area is this area here along the edge of the Marysville UGA.
Cannot see that.
Commissioner James, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, I can't hear David and I can't really see his map, so it's okay. But I did hear him when he was talking earlier, describing the area. And I think I understand the map from what his description was. And I just wanted to add that the policy, the overall policy that he's talking about doesn't need to be deleted. We're just only proposing that the policy be adjusted as needed to allow expansion. It's time for, and it's time to consider. And as another, just an addendum thought, yeah, it may not be 10 years. A citizen may make a proposal in between that 10-year stretch to make a change, to expand this UGA. I don't know how many times that's actually been successful in history. for a citizen to do that way. And to get the wheels of government moving again is all the time, all the hours and everything involved. If we're hopeful that some unknown, I don't know really what the other commissioners, Campbell and I can't remember who else said, that it's not ready. Well, believe me, we were very aware of what parts aren't ready and what's not ready infrastructure wise, and those would not be approached or attempted unless they were. But having the ability to do that without going back into all of the minutia of government to get that thing within the next 10 years back to this point that we're at right now. Not that we're making the decision, we're just making an approval or not to the council to make the decision, but at least, giving them that ability to do that. Now it just makes more sense. It's more efficient. We're not hurting anything by doing it now, where you may be economically hurting things if you say no to this now. So that's all I'm saying. Let's keep our options open. Why get rid of the options? And we've got responsible players here, and I don't understand why it wouldn't go through. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Thanks, Commissioner James. Any other discussion at this time? I do wish that there were light industrial on the west side of the tracks now, that we saw activity, and I don't see it. Am I right on that? I know, but okay, so it is dedicated land. It is going to develop as light industrial. Okay.
In the city limits.
Okay. So my concern is mute on that. There is activity. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Any
Yeah, Commissioner Larson. Yeah, again, I can't see the whole map. I'm pretty sure that's North Point's property. They've already bought, they have development plans and all of that's done at this point. So yes, to your answer, this is like, I don't know what this Google map is dated as, but usually they're a couple years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't go by what you see there. It's been changed, bought, and is in process of development as we speak. So.
Okay, any other discussion? Right now, we have a motion to approve this time. MV2 made by Commissioner Ash, seconded by Commissioner Sievers. Any other discussion before we go to a vote? Taylor, please take the roll.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
No.
Vice Chair Campbell,
No.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Sadly, I'll have to say yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
and Commissioner Sievers.
Yes.
We have 6 votes in favor. This one passes. Motion to approve. Next item, 6, Real Estate Development LLC, Southwest 10. Frank.
Okay, so the next docket proposal for consideration for recommendation is SW10 CS Real Estate Development. This is to redesignate 14 acres along Bothell Everett Highway from urban industrial to urban center, with implementing zoning of urban center. And the recommendation on this is yes, it does meet the requirement that there is a need for additional capacity within the Mill Creek UGA to accommodate the Mill Creek municipal urban growth area, I should say, to accommodate the adopted initial target for the Mill Creek municipal urban growth area. And that is part of the high capacity transit communities, regional geography, where growth is to be encouraged and accommodated as a priority. So It does meet all of the criteria for review under the Snohomish County Code. Also with the new information that is available today, as opposed to in the past when this was not designated this way. In Vision 2040, this was part of a regional geography where growth was discouraged. And so with Vision 2050, that it's a change in policy approach for this area. So the recommendation is to approve. This was studied in alternative 3. It was the proposal is different than what was studied in alternative 2 for this location. Although alternative 2 studied a change in designation at this location, it was to a less intense designation. The capacity increase at this location for population would be 1,105 population and 313 employment capacity. That's in addition to the existing employment capacity as urban industrial. And that's the recommendation.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? Commissioner Campbell?
Maybe we could make this faster tonight, but I would move to approve this. This is my neighborhood. I understand it's already being built out like this. I think the change in designation makes sense. It's a part of alternative 2. Should be a no-brainer.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campbell to approve the CS real estate development, seconded by Commissioner Ash. Any discussion? Seeing none, Taylor, please take the roll when you're done. No hurry. Very good.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Okay, CS development is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving to SW 12, Metzner Southwest 12. Frank?
Okay, give me a moment to pull this up. So this is a little bit of a change of pace. It's not literally a map amendment, although it does affect a specific spatial area, and it is a docket request. So this is a proposed code amendment, and it also has, I have a map that shows the area that would be affected. If the computer can figure out what I'm trying to do. Okay, so let's just look at the code amendment real quick. So that's, in terms of words, it's not too much. So this is a note to the bulk matrix in our development code, Title 30 of the Snohomish County Code. And the proposal is to change the number 800 to the number 2000. There's also a typo change that, as long as we're making this change, we're proposing to add the word is that seems to be missing in the existing code provision. So the effect of this policy is to expand the area along Highway 99 within the urban core of the Southwest UGA, where there is a increased maximum height limit for multifamily development, that if it is located within basically any of the zones that allow multifamily development along Highway 99. Currently, that is already allowed in the area that's 2,000 feet west of State Route 99 and 800 feet east of Highway 99, and also east of State Route 525. So there's a particular area of Highway 99 where this applies. And this would expand the area to the east so that it would be equal to the area on the west where the increased height limit applies. So it allows buildings up to 75 feet for multifamily. Currently, those zones in that area and also for commercial development, they the height limits are between 35 to 45 feet. It's a little bit different depending on the zone. But this does not change the allowed density. It just changes the height that can be used to accommodate the density that's currently allowed within that area. And then let me show the map that shows where this would apply. So the existing provisions apply within the area that's outlined in green. And the new provisions would expand that to include the area that has the blue hash. So I'm showing the zoning here in the background to kind of indicate there are some areas here that are not affected by the provision because they are they don't allow multifamily, but there's not too much of that location that's within the affected area. So the recommendation on this one is to approve. It is consistent with the criteria for review of docket proposals and essentially would allow more flexibility to be able to meet the development densities that are already allowed while avoiding impacts for critical areas that are within those properties.
Thanks, Frank. Commissioner Campbell.
I move that we approve the Southwest 12 code amendment.
Motion to approve. Second from Commissioner Ash. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, Taylor, please take the roll.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Okay, Metzner Southwest 12 passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving to Petier Southwest 14, Frank.
Okay, the next docket proposal for consideration for recommendation is SW 14, Janice Petrie. This proposal would add 10.75 acres to the southwest UGA, the east side of the boundary, with the designation of urban medium density residential. It's located just south of not sure how to pronounce it, Strummy Road, east of Sunset Road. And to clarify, this is an area that overlaps with motion 22-090. That proposal the Planning Commission did not recommend. But this is as a standalone proposal would designate this urban medium density residential with low density multiple residential LDMR zoning. The recommendation is to deny. This is a proposal that is adding capacity to the urban unincorporated areas regional geography, and the Vision 2050 policies say that we should avoid adding capacity to the urban unincorporated areas regional geography. Therefore, the recommendation is to deny.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion on this proposal? Commissioner Ash.
I'm probably will, but I think, but I am a little conflicted on this. I don't, it's kind of a spot zone thing, but I know that we got stuck on a project that's right at the corner of Strum Road and Sunset Road. And Public Works wanted Strum Road, figure that's going to be a connected arterial, you know, that they're going to update that. So the county Public Works is saying, we're going to make a big thorough road out of this thing. But then we're not, you're not supporting that. I guess I'm conflicted because I'd probably actually vote Tom's way this way on this particular one, but wondering why Public Works is telling us to build highways on that northern portion of this.
Thanks, Commissioner Ash. Any other comments? Any other comments on this proposal? Okay, let's take the vote. Go ahead, Taylor.
No one made a motion.
I'm sorry.
There's been a
Excuse me.
motion.
I was ready to vote.
I know.
We do need a motion.
Well, I don't want to confuse people. I move to deny this spot zoning. And there need to be a second for that.
Yes, we do need a second. Moved by Commissioner Campbell to deny Southwest 14. Be careful on our vote. Is there a second?
Second, as long as we remember what the vote.
Okay, Commissioner Sheldon seconds. So a yes denies. Okay. Before we vote, any discussion? We have a motion and a second to deny SW 14. No discussion. Go ahead, Taylor. Take the vote. So a yes denies.
Commissioner Ash,
Go yes, or no, yeah, I'm in favor, yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
So yes is in favor of denying?
Correct.
correct.
Okay. Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Unanimous vote to deny. Thank you. Last of these proposals, Town of Woodway. Go ahead, Frank.
I'm going to bring up the aerials on this one. There's two parts to this, so let's go back to the overarching. So this is the final docket, the final of the final dockets for consideration for recommendation. SW 17, Town of Woodway. The proposal here is to add to the an area that is within the existing town limits that extends into Puget Sound out to the county border to the UGA, and also to add the pier that extends from within the UGA but is currently located just outside of the UGA, and to add just that pier to the UGA. And also include those within the Woodway Municipal Urban Growth Area. This proposal, the recommendation from staff is to approve. This does not add any development capacity, but it does bring the existing town into the UGA, consistent with essentially with the intention of the UGA boundary, and also would bring the pier. So the existing structure is divided by the UGA If this area is annexed, which there is a proposal underway to annex the unincorporated Woodway Municipal Urban Growth Area by Woodway, this would allow Woodway to, in the future, potentially also bring the entire pier structure into its jurisdiction, so that if there is a desire to make repairs to the pier, for example, it would minimize the number of jurisdictions. Currently, the jurisdictions for this area include the state and the county. And there would be 3 jurisdictions that have permitting authority if a portion of the pier structure is annexed. So this would bring that pier entirely into Woodway's MUGA so that it could be annexed. Again, the recommendation is to approve. This was studied in both alternative 2 and alternative 3.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion?
I move to approve the motion.
Commissioner Campbell moves to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ash seconds the motion. Do we have a motion to approve? Town of Woodway. Any discussion? Commissioner Sheldon. Commissioner Sheldon.
I'm going to vote. I should suggest that remember this one because we're going to come to another one down later on in the elements. How we're approving into the water is okay for one, but it isn't okay for the other. So we have to determine what is okay for one, what is for the other. We do the same thing for Everett. They have theirs. I can understand that it's an aircraft carrier, but there is no aircraft carrier there now. So I'm against this motion because it's not good for the one, it's not good for the other.
Any other discussion? The thing I can't, just my discussion is, the thing I can't move off of here is we're very sensitive right now. And Commissioner Sheldon, please respond if you want to. My feeling is with these non-point pollution discharge regulations we've got right now, they're very strong.
Correct.
And my inclination is to clean up the jurisdiction here, and that's what I believe this does. And we need it here, particularly with the point there, Point Wells, I think that is. I'd love to see the jurisdiction repair go on, recognizing that we are very careful about how we deal with water. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve at this time. And unless there's any discussion, we'll take a vote. Go ahead, Taylor.
Commissioner Ash,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Bastide,
Yes.
Vice Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Namella,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon,
No.
and Commissioner Severs.
Yes.
Motion passes with a vote against for principle, which we appreciate. That completes our docket items, and we would next be taking up the comprehensive plan element text and map amendments, and here it is 9 o'clock. Shall we quit for tonight and come back tomorrow at 5:30?
I
Make a motion.
motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
And seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, and for the audience tonight.